Hey, before we get the show started here, I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Taking It Easy, man. Have you taken it easy lately? Well, why don't you go take it easy? I think you'd feel a little bit better afterwards, so go think about doing that. Today's show is also brought to you by, hey man, stop bothering people who don't need it. Have you stopped bothering people who don't need it? Think about doing that next time you're in a jam and you want to go bother somebody who doesn't need it. Reach for an ice cold, refreshing, hey, quit fucking with those people, dude. Today's show is also brought to you by, hey, we're not done yet. Have you thought we're not done yet? Well, we aren't done yet. So maybe don't jump to having a 4th of July barbecue and a picnic on a 4th of July flag type of outfit. Don't wear a American flag tuxedo to a park where you are celebrating the facade of freedom, because Independence Day was independence for the slave owners who drafted the Declaration of Independence. So just want to let you know it's Independence Day for some tomorrow, not for everybody. And with that, kick it with the new theme. Yeah, we are here in the kitchen again. It's the Human Variety Hour podcast. We have a spare show today. It's going to be rather minimal. So if you're setting in for a grand old night, well, we put on quite the heck of a show last time where we had 3 comedians and a musical guest. So go back and listen to that if you didn't. Because I imagine whoever's listening, I don't think they're hanging on to every single syllable that's being uttered on these episodes. Granted, they're getting better as they go along, so it's pretty tough to enjoy, I'm sure, in some parts. And that's how you define being self-indulgent. And for that, I apologize. I'm working on it. What we got? We're just hanging out here. Me and the dog are just chilling. I gave my dog a can of wet dog food. If you want to see a dog salivate and go crazy, open up a can of wet dog food. It really hits the spot on a nice hot day. Open a nice can of beef and garden vegetables. It's a cool thing to enjoy. I think it's neat that they're still advertising things that we already know about. Like they're advertising Chunky Campbell's soup. It's just like, hey, in case you haven't thought of us in a while, we make a can of stew sitting in your fridge. So whenever you are down and out and, well, you have a microwave but you don't have much wherewithal to keep it going, you can put us in the microwave for 2 minutes and you got a full bowl of mechanically separated chicken. You know how good that chicken tastes when it's mechanically separated. And there's this thing where, I'm a sucker. Every now and again I can be a sucker, and I'll watch some shit. And I was watching Adam Ruins Everything, which is it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, and it's also like a hey, you're breaking some truths here, but it's also kind of like, come on, man, with the queef. Is that what it's called? A queef? A queef? It's like, yeah, you could tell us that all water is poison, or all hair is secretly blue, deep down in the blood cellular level. But as far as being a the guy is mansplaining everything, and it's just one of those things where it's like, hey man, this is a gimmick, but then it's real. It's one of those things where it crosses a line where it's like, it's a gimmick where he's like, hey, I'm the guy who shows up and he's mansplaining, but then it's like he is though. Anyway, so I was watching that, and I don't know where I was going with that. I just watched it once. I watched it a couple times. I watch it only. That's the only thing I watch. I actually can't get out of my room at night because that's the only thing I can. It makes me want to live anymore. No, there's some good facts that come out of that, and that's something that I enjoy. That it's consumable content. It attempts to be educational, and there's a lot of stuff that holds up where it's like, hey, not everything's as great as you thought it was. There's corn in all your stuff. Do we need this much corn? Like, and then your corn is it shows up in your blood cells in a microbiological level. Like, corn is your DNA now. So, like, when they say you are what you eat, you are corn. So that's why white people are so corny, you know? They're eating so much corn, and that's just what they turn into. They forget how to dance, and they're just like, let's go travel down to the old, whatever, George Thorogood show. If that's what people enjoy these days. Like I said, we're lacking in the guest department. Basically, we're just trying to get a show out there because I hate to not deliver on the weekly promise. And I know there's at least 4 people that are holding me strictly accountable to that. And that is who I aim to please. But sincerely, it's been a wild, wild week, man. I don't know how anybody is just carrying on with the usual business of, hey, let me put on my blue suede shoes and go tap dance down to this local sparkler shop, and then make myself a mimosa, and then put on my Ray-Bans, and then also get on my skateboard and ride my scooter onto the old dog track. As if, it's not like there's a crumbling infrastructure. There's not a paradigm shift currently taking place where it's like, hey man, you are actively marching, you're actively towing the line of being on the wrong side of history. You're just carrying the torch of ignorance and just perpetuating the old oblivious, hey, if I just pretend it doesn't exist, then I'll die with less high blood pressure. That's really what it comes down to. Is people are like, after a certain age, they're just like, I just can't even think about racism anymore. So I'm just going to go on and think about these religions and forget about the horrors of reality and what I can't control. I guess ultimately they feel better. Their health is probably serviced by that. But then what's left is just all the people who don't have the choice to do that, who have to pick up all the slack of the people who don't want to help make things a little bit easier in this world for people. And that's the burden. That's the burden of it all. When you could be someone who's just like, hey, I have the luxury of... every time I see someone where it's like, you can have money and be not a misanthrope. You can have both things accomplished. Like, I love looking at older people who are like Susan Sarandon. She's wealthy. She's part of wealthy heritage, and she's a Bernie supporter. So she's advocating for the working class. And, it's that thing where it's like, yeah, she could choose not to give a fuck and be self-involved and actively creating a bubble away from the world, the greater world at large, to where you go on a trip and you go traveling and it's like you're being pulled around by a personal rickshaw and you're like, look at all these weird, look at the scenery, man. Look at this environment we're in. And it's like, you're describing people like they're landmarks. It's like, look at that. Oh, it's like I love this blend of skin tones that just, when you ride in your car down the street, you're like, this is a nice blend of skin tones. As opposed to like, hey man, why don't you go talk to somebody? Why don't you go interact with people and be like, hey, I'm not trying to oppress you in my daily life. I'm not trying to add weight to the pile. I don't go into a coffee shop and say, where's my coffee? I am here and I demand it. It's like you can be like, hey, because I have the leisure to just go around, stroll around, and, get coffee and walk around town on the sidewalk. Nobody else besides like an upper class person gets to enjoy a sidewalk. Everyone else has to just hurry along it to get to their work. That's why it's a very seldom enjoyed place, I guess. But you could stop in a coffee shop and be like, hey, man, I've never talked to you before. I didn't even know about you till I saw you. So I'm going to have a little moment of a human connection here and be like, hey, what's up with you, man? Even though it's like, whatever, you're trying to like stifle up some small talk, but like hey, I'm going to like crack a joke at this guy and detect, like, maybe they have a sense of humor. Maybe it's like, hey, we all need some comic relief, and it doesn't all have to happen on either side of the table. It doesn't have to be barista versus customer, or vice versa. It could be like hey, old Jimmy that comes in here all 6 a.m. every day, and he's cracking jokes, and he's like, man, he's saying stuff. He's such a character. You could be one of those guys and be like, hey, he's a man of the people. That's why people like haven't turned their back on people like Bill Murray or people who have come out of these 80s eras with their noses clean, relatively speaking. They're not like, oh, I went down the road of carnal sin and just decadence, pure selfish decadence and wealth consumption and conspicuous consumption. It's like, nah, man, like, I'm just enjoying shit. And part of enjoying shit is enjoying people and interacting with people and learning about other people besides yourself. Haven't you spent enough time thinking about yourself? Go around and start thinking about other people for a second. Like, your brain is constantly consumed with your own thoughts and your own self-analyzations. You're just kind of like, I feel like a little older today. I feel like, this is the thing in my childhood, which I'm seeing things and I'm having new things happen and I'm understanding things. But also, like, enough of me, enough of you, enough of the people. You have space in your brain and your psyche and your soul to include thoughts of other thoughts of knowledge, thoughts of people. And instead of being like, let's just drown it with cheese and just food and everything. That's why I can't stand the idea of like when you have people who are toting the Bible, but literally, if you looked up to Jesus, you'd have someone, if you actually wanted to aspire to being someone like him, all Jesus was like, he was like a dude in a theater troupe. Went out to a restaurant with 12 friends. They split the check. They only ate the bread and the water. It's like a bunch of broke college kids just going out for a meal, and they're like, all right, let's see. Let's get one salad to split between us all. That's what that means when that verse in the Bible where he's like, and then he broke the bread and he fed everybody. It's like, yeah, they're all eating like little microscopic bits. It's like eating ramen noodles back in the day, but they didn't have ramen. They had bread. That's all they had was bread and water. And like big ol' hunks of meat and stuff. What did they eat in the Bible era? They had like olive oil and like did they have rice? Did they have falafel? How new is falafel? Was it invented at the turn of the century? where they're like, we gotta find a new type of crisp. And like, hey, we never tried crisping up some chickpeas before. And they're like, hey man, I think you're onto something. We've been frying these potatoes all year. And you showed up with a whole type of thing that's got protein in it. Man. I hope people start to do good shit. I don't know if that's going to happen. We have all this protesting. We have all these police riots. We had Marty Walsh, who voted to increase the salary of the police force and did not contribute as much as they could have to the actual communities being affected by over-policing, by draconian law enforcement, by people who criminalize poverty, hassle people for hanging around when they clearly don't have money. So don't hassle them. Get them a bed to sleep on. Take them to a home of some kind. Take them to a place where they could find their way out of a never-ending cycle of implosion. It's like, that's the thing that needs to be funded. That's when they're talking about we need to abolish the police. It's the idea is that, move some of that money out of just punishing people for being people and being a victim of their own circumstance that was created by a system that left the leaky faucet running until there was a flood. And then they said, well, instead of draining the flood, we're just going to get some rowboats for the more privileged of us. And people drown. I guess they drown. I guess that's just the way. We never thought about making this a airtight vessel. The country is just a Titanic. It's like, even the gods themselves couldn't sink the ship. It's like, the gods did sink this is a sinking ship. So this Titanic was sinking the day it was founded. When you have an all-white team drafting a Declaration of Independence while returning home to beat their slaves, that's not going to be right. That isn't going to translate too well. So when you don't make any amendments, or you don't actually act upon them, or you don't take the full scope of the situation into account and say, maybe we should retroactively take a look at our own racist roots and say, oh yeah, you're right, 4th of July didn't really include everybody, and there's some discrepancies with the laws that were drafted 300 years ago by pilgrims with muskets. They didn't even have cars. They didn't even have Xboxes. What do they know about our time? None of that stuff's relevant anymore. They believed in the barbarism that gave them the power. It's the same kind of career-seeking, leveraging the systematic poverty of society. It's sitting on top of an anthill and letting the ants get smothered while you find shelter and joy. Okay. We should do something here. So, or maybe I just won't release this episode. Maybe it's just like, hey, this one was a test. It was a draft. Just needed to kind of get some things out in the air. And, I think maybe we'll jump into some bits. Maybe we'll have some music to play. We'll have something. You won't get nothing. You'll get a little bit of something. But again, free show. What are you complaining about? You should be grateful for the show you got. There's starving kids in other countries who don't have a show. They'd enjoy to have a show. Well, this next moment requires a commercial break. So
we have to take a station break. And what? And what else?
And sell some more oranges.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy's got nuts, Mounds don't. Almond Joy's got real milk chocolate, coconut and munchy nuts too. Mounds got deep dark chocolate and chewy coconut. Ooh. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Peter Paul, Almond Joy's got nuts, Peter Paul, Mounds don't. Because sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
When I was a kid, the closest you could get me to a fish was the aquarium. Now, thanks to McDonald's, I'm the expert. You see, most fish is not government inspected, but all McDonald's fish is U.S. government inspected grade A. And it's all prime white filet. No fish cakes, not ground up, not mixed with other fish. It's a filet of fish. The best-selling fish sandwich in America.
Tell him your nickname, Henry.
They call me Jaws.
Quality you can taste.
Look what happens when you buy 3 boxes of Purina Cat Chow. You get 1 box free.
Purina Cat Chow. Chow, chow, chow.
Buy 3 bags of Purina Cat Chow and get a coupon good for 1 bag free.
Purina Cat Chow. Chow, chow, chow.
No matter what size you buy, you can mail in proofs of purchase and get a coupon good for 1 free.
Purina Cat Chow. Chow, chow, chow.
So, buy any 3 Purina Cat Chow now and get 1 free.
Chow, chow, chow.
All over the world, the word for great coffee flavor is Nescafe.
We're the world's favorite brand of instant coffees.
In America, Nescafe's great flavor comes 2 ways.
We're the world's best-selling too.
Nescafe Regular in the red label.
If Nescafe can please the whole wide world.
And now Nescafe Decaffeinated in the green label.
We can sure please you.
Same kind of flavor. Nescafe Regular, Nescafe Decaffeinated. What's your pleasure?
You make this shot, you can have anything you want for dinner.
I'll have Kentucky Fried Chicken, Mom.
You got it, superstar.
Kids love Kentucky Fried Chicken, just like other folks. And with all those delicious fixins, what a meal.
It's finger-licking good. Real goodness from Kentucky Fried Chicken.
There's nothing quite like them on television. The Bradfords, not your typical family of 8 children.
I don't wear nightgowns anymore, Daddy.
They'll make you laugh 1 minute.
I forgot to kiss you goodnight.
And cry the next. Just like your own family. 8 is enough right after Happy Days in Laverne and Shirley.
Listen, Mr. Merrill, if you don't stay tuned for the second half of the Brady Bunch Hour, you're rude. Rude.
Pardon me, what kind of dog food does your dog eat?
Young fella, there's 2 things I know. Checkers and dogs. Dogs like canned dog food. Especially Herman here.
Do you think he'd like Gaines burgers?
Well, he might. Yeah, leave this to me. Dogs like food that's moist and meaty.
But Gaines burgers are moist and meaty, see?
Go ahead, but...
And they taste terrific.
And you don't know nothing about checkers, neither.
Gaines burgers dog food. The canned dog food without the can.
I missed my big chance last time. Angie, I'm not going to miss it again.
There it is.
That's the Athena 2000 electronic machine by Singer. It's $100 off. Push these buttons. It sews 25 stitches.
Beautiful.
Even measures buttons and makes buttonholes to fit in 1 step. If you missed your chance last time, the big Singer sale is back.
Hey, Debbie, if you was my mother, what would you think of your son now? Huh?
Oh.
Why are women so happy about new Tickle antiperspirant? Is it because Tickle is the first roll-on with a big, wide ball? Is it because Tickle comes in 4 fresh fragrances? Or is it because Tickle helps keep you dry all day? Make yourself happy. Staying drier is nicer with a little Tickle.
In some ways, I'm old-fashioned and sentimental. I save love letters, and I press flowers in books. But I do like the modern way to have prettier hair. That's why I like Nice and Easy. It's got built-in conditioners, and the color looks so honest. It lets me be me. I guess that's why Nice and Easy is the world's best-selling hair color.
When did you start baking from scratch?
It's not scratch, Mom. It's new Pillsbury Plus.
A yellow cake this firm could only be from scratch.
It's Pillsbury Plus.
A cake this moist could only be from scratch. A cake this rich could only be from scratch.
It's Pillsbury Plus. The plus is pudding. Pudding right in the mix to add that moistness.
Rich flavor. New Pillsbury Plus, huh? Looks like scratch has met its match.
I'll give you $50 for those sneakers.
$50. Okay? You can have them. They're terrible. It's to prove a point. Now, you wash in detergent alone, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's wash this sneaker in detergent alone and this one in the same detergent plus Clorox bleach. Now, see any cleaning difference?
The one I wash with my detergent is just 30. The one washed with Clorox looks so clean.
Clorox Clean. People can see the difference.
Saturday, the fun starts when Nancy meets Francie, Sunshine's mom.
Actually, we live a very quiet life here.
Oh, and what do you call this?
Bad timing.
Then there's a fire at the fishes.
The empty house 2 doors down, it's on fire.
Could Victor be a firebug?
These children are under my supervision.
Go fish!
And Starsky and Hutch are set up by the mob. Right after Blansky's Beauties and Fish.
Hi, this is Matt with Matt's Tate Penitentiary. I used to be a prison guard, and now I've given up the life to sell pens for a living. I am a pen wholesaler. Now, growing up, I've seen the errors in my ways, and now I've decided, let's get into the pen business while it's hot. And it's hot, baby. We've got all sorts of pens in our warehouse. We got blue pens, we got black pens, we got white pens, we got red pens, we got big pens, we got small pens. We got those kinds of pens that have 4 different inks in there, and you're like, how do you fit 4 inks in one pen? We have pens for Palm Pilots. They don't even make those anymore, but we make them. We distribute them. We have lots of them. Just hear some of our testimonials of our satisfied customers. I bought 600 pens for the price of 300. Looks like I got some writing to do. I was a divorced dad. I was sad. I was just looking in my pen cabinet and just saying, man, if I just had something to write on, maybe I'd have a wife. Hey, that was a great ad by the people over at Matt's Tate Penitentiary. Matt Tate's Penitentiary. Penitentiary with a hyphen there. They wanted to be clarify that they are not the Mass State Penitentiary, and they've been getting a lot of phone calls from people looking to lock up some prisoners, and they're saying, "Hey, please stop confusing our very easy to confuse name with something we're not. We only distribute and manufacture pens and sell them at low cost." So please stop phone calling us and saying, "Hey, are you the place I can round up some people and put in there because they look like they have less money than I do?" They're a sponsor of the show. They just wanted to drop in and put that little footnote in there and just say, "Hey, I want to say, hey, thank you, Matt. You're doing a great job with your pens. Maybe think about rebranding in a little bit. Maybe it's helping you. Maybe you're getting some people that are like, well, I did need to lock somebody up for the rest of their life for smoking some weed, but then I realized it wasn't the right place. But then I did think about it and like, hey, I guess I could use some pens." So there are some happy surprise customers over there, and that's good for them. I hope they're getting a lot of business. You know, this economy is built on pens and things like that. When you have someone who's like, let me get into the footwear business. People just pull something out of the sky. I'm going to get into the cotton swab business. I don't think we have enough cotton swabs in this world, and I think there's a good hook in there for me. But at least you're doing that and you're not murdering people, so do that instead. if your business is not contributing to the suffering of people, and it's just found a little on ramp onto the economic highway, and you're just fulfilling a need that's just very simple and essential, and hopefully there's not too much exploitation involved. I think that's all you can do. That's like the best thing you can do in this world, short of having a coup d'etat. And I don't see many people lining up to do that in this country. We got too much weed around and too much... we have a lot of good TV shows. So why rebel against a government that's increasingly becoming an augmented Nazi party? We have children in cages. We have police who are... have a license to kill, and they use it generously, let's say, exclusively on minorities. People who are black and Latinx are incarcerated at exponentially crazy rates, basically. They are arrested at rates that are greater than their actual population. The percentage of their population is just completely improportional to the amount of white people that are arrested for doing the exact same shit, and more so. How long did it take to get Jeffrey Epstein's wife arrested? And then meanwhile, you got a guy trying to buy a pack of cigarettes, and he had a weird piece of ink on it, and then all of a sudden he's not alive anymore. Think about the cost of that, and also remember that that's happening in the same country that is about to have a grand old picnic tomorrow. Who's got their Corona Blue? Who's got their Miller Lite and the who's bringing the watermelon? Who's bringing the potato salad? It's not appropriate to celebrate Independence Day when we know all this shit. We know all the shit that we know, which includes there's a pandemic and people aren't wearing their masks. People are sitting having brunch with their masks off, while protesters are trying to hold people accountable for the amount of murder happening across racial lines. That is a country of willful oblivion. People choose oblivion as opposed to acknowledging the reality of the world and being like, hey, I'm going to keep my foot out of this, I'm going to keep one foot out, one foot in. I'm not going to keep both feet in. Because you got to speak up. Speak up where you can and how you can, even in subtle little ways. I was down in Boston today, and I overheard somebody in a park bench say, "No, nothing, man. Just smoking some crack." That was just a guy who said that. I just walked by and it was just like, yeah, it was just like he's just saying, like, I just ran into Carol the other day. Just walking down a bench, and it's just like the guy was like, "Hey, what you up to?" "Oh, nothing. Just smoking some crack outside on a nice, lovely day." It's like, wow, man, that's like a real laid-back way to, I guess, have an addiction. So, I mean, like, hey, some people are managing their crack addictions very well. So let's take that and run with it and say, hey, crack is not a problem and drugs are not hurting anybody, and also the government's good. But, I think it's a thing where it's like, when people say, oh, you have a drinking problem, you have this problem, it's like, I don't have a drinking problem, I have a world problem. I feel like people blame it on the individual as far as, hey, why are you having such a hard time coping with the genocide happening on a daily basis and the children in cages that are just a footnote, and it's a story that's not even talked about anymore. They're still in there. They're missing their parents. They're never going to see them again. And that's just casual information. We have stormtroopers walking down the street in every single city. People in North Carolina planning racial genocide, cops in North Carolina talking on the CB radio, like it's just like a, hey man, what you getting for lunch? Let's go also slaughter people. I saw that on Sean King's Instagram, where these cops, they got fired for planning a genocide in the state that lost the Civil War, but still goes on trying to cheer on the loss. They're trying to celebrate their loss. Hey, I get the idea of like, hey, all people are, just having fun or whatever, like, consolation prizes and being like, hey, everybody should get a medal, even if you win or lose. Not if your cause was to keep slavery happening, and when you lost, still find ways to go kill people and control them and find your way into a police force where you lock them up and find a different way to enslave them. So there's that. I just can't stand how people just treat insanity like it's a casual fact. And then you're like, hey, maybe some wine or some other types of things would calm down the madness that people are just turning their backs to, turning their heads, they're looking the other way. And it's like, oh, hey, I hear Jerry's got a drinking problem. It's like, maybe Jerry is the only one paying attention to all the shit. And then they're written off as a margin of society for noticing that suffering happens outside their racial lines, outside their socioeconomic status, or they're within their own socioeconomic status and they can't do anything about it. So they just gradually just choose vices that are not healthy, and they're just the only solution that is for sale. The only solution that's available during a pandemic. And police reform apparently isn't one of those solutions that's available within a pandemic. But police brutality and murder squad mobs storming the streets, killing peaceful protesters, tear gassing them, enabling dog whistling white supremacists. That can't be reduced. Can't turn that down a little bit. But you got to keep, hey, maybe this problem can fix itself if we let them drink themselves to death, because they can't stand the systematic destruction of society. So what can you do? Yeah, go pot a plant. That's all you can do. I'm trying not to drink as much. And the world keeps happening. The world keeps terrorizing its own citizens. People keep polluting and destroying the ocean, and nuclear reactors spill into the ocean in Japan, and it's not cleaned up, and it's underreported, and it's not solved, and oil spills all throughout the ocean. Humans, corporations just destroy the planet, and then you wonder why a pandemic shows up, because the planet is trying to purge this pest. These corporations are the pests. They're actively agitating the earth with pollution, with overconsumption, with PFP, chlorofluorocarbons and all that shit spraying around, with just nuclear runoff, just nuclear radiation that was built and they just designed it to leak and destroy the ocean. Like the same stuff that devastates generations of communities that have been bombed. Oops, we just spilled it in the ocean. That's just the, 90% of the earth. It's just the heart of our human ecosystem. It's the heart of our world's ecosystem. And we're just like, whoops, we're destroying the planet. Whoops. It's easier to do it that way. And it keeps going on and going on. And then, the Earth is like, what will stop these people that have bunkers and masks and just bulldozers and shit? Well, we gotta find... I'm pretending to be the Earth right now. I'm like, okay, we gotta find something that'll affect the people that are in corporations. So if it's airborne and it's just lingers and it can get onto a plane, let's see. It can get onto the place where the wealthy people travel. So airplanes, private jets. And the people are going to be so arrogant and willfully misinformed that they're going to go on without masks. So this should be a perfect solution to ending corporate Earth destruction. And I feel like that was... the Earth is evolving to stop human malevolence. So, that's the ultimate karma, is that this planet, it's like a dog with fleas on its back. It's going to bite. You think it's pretending not to scratch an itch? Oh, it's going to scratch that itch. It's going to bite its fur right off. This planet is a dog, man. All dogs are planets. Plants are dogs. But the 4th of July is the original All Lives Matter. It's like, hey, man, why are you talking about some people's lack of independence? We got our independence, man. Let's light up some fireworks. Let's have some barbecue ribs. Let's have socks that have the American flag on them. Don't burn my socks. I took my American flag socks to the laundromat. The dryer burnt my socks. And I was like, hey man, are you a terrorist? You dryer? Are you a drying terrorist? You dryer? You are drying my vibe right now, man. I just think about... Man, all this people protesting racial injustice is harshing my mellow, man. I'm trying to drink Coronas on a beach. I can't be bothered with other people's communal destruction. I can't be stopping people from having their children harassed and bullied and ultimately murdered for just being children of a different neighborhood. I'm trying to go onto this party bus. I can't be thinking about buses that people need to get to work because they're overworked and underpaid and the corporations take advantage and exploit their labor and don't give them health benefits and then have TV commercials on, saying that we are for our employees and we're here for you now that we have a coronavirus. I can't be doing that. I'm trying to listen to Kesha. I want to hear some more of that music that goes, in our house. We're in our house. I want more of that music. All these alpha hetero men that are like, they repulsed and rejected the idea that great quality music, disco music, was put out by homosexual men. So they have to go to these all straight nightclubs. They're like, hey man, I can't just be in here having a good time. I gotta actively terrorize women to make my night all right with my bros, my squad. No, the man squad is a crew. I got a crew. It's not a squad, it's a crew. We're a wrecking crew. We're just a bunch of construction worker. We're just a bunch of working hunks. Got our tool belts. We take our tool belts right down to the nightclub. And when we're done building this shed, we're gonna find some ladies. Meanwhile, it's like, hey man, you ever been to a gay club? There's a lot of all sorts of people there. And better music. You just gotta chill your insecurity out. Meanwhile, they're like, let's reject all good music, which has a good beat, and any kind of bass player who is black in our music. We want computer beats. We want Diplo. We want these guys who are DJ men. We sit in here with our silk unbuttoned shirts and our whatever coif head hair. You know, we have our one of those kinds of guy. We have that look. They go into that barber shop down in the financial district and they all come out looking the same. Like, hey, I'm feeling a little DeVille. I'm Macklemore. For the rest of my life, I chose this style. It's the symbol of somebody who has no originality or character. I'm a uniform-wearing uniformist. So we go to this nightclub, and we're just sitting there bobbing our heads, all four of us men, and not talking to each other, in the loudest place possible. And all of a sudden we're like, hey man, play that song that's like, and it feels like a good time tonight. It's going to be a weekend Saturday, or Saturday weekend time. It's a good time tonight, baby. Baby, it's a good time, baby. I just walked down to the nightclub. Hey, it's a Friday night. Let's play the beats, because we're trying to make love tonight. Turn that shit up. That's too good. You're gonna get your dick sucked. Yeah, man, that's my music. That's the stuff I like to have people identify me by. It might as well sound like that. Like, you go into a nightclub and it's just like these, you know, just broad things. Just let's have the same gimmicks in every single song. I'm actively hating on contemporary pop music. And, like, it's also like a thing, like, hey, if you're not bothering anybody with it, go for it. Enjoy what you like. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, you can condemn people for not giving a fuck about human, you know, tragedy, you know, like active persecution of people. They can see with their own eyes, and if you're not actually stepping in, or, you know, if you don't have a negative opinion about it, at least that's something else. Like, you gotta at least have a baseline of like, whatever. But then it's like, if you're gonna go listen to whatever at the end of the day, and it calms you down, or it puts you in a good mood, or helps you get through a jog, and you're getting healthier as a result, there's no reason to punish that, you know. But that being said, you're not allowed to listen to music by any gay or black or Latinx performer if you are not speaking up in times where those communities are affected by evildoers in your own community. Like, I don't want to hear you listening to a single Marvin Gaye song if you are a person brunching during a Black Lives Matter protest. You don't deserve it. It's not for you. It's actually about you and against you. War is not the answer. Too many, you know, brothers and mothers dying, or mothers crying about their sons dying. If you're just listening to it because you like his voice and the melody, you're missing some stuff. But also, if you do enjoy his voice and his melody, you should earn it. And you should also understand what someone goes through to put out music like that. Like, there is a certain amount of reflection, or at least introspection. I mean, you gotta craft your talent somehow. But if you're seeking salvation from music, with music, you're seeking it from something, which usually means some kind of persecution, whether it's societal, familial, or you have some kind of mental health, your type of suffering. Any of those, you know, quadrants are what pushes you in the path of, I'm going to create some stuff. Where in some cases, some people are like, I'm just going to drink and do crazy drugs to death, or, you know, I'm just going to drown my brain out. Some people decide, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something productive with it, but also something productive that spiritually and emotionally fulfills me and gratifies me. But if you're just looking at all the world surface deep, that's you're not allowed to dig a hole. If you're only looking at the world at surface level, you're not allowed to dig a hole. Sorry, because that's the kind of person you are. If you're superficial, you're not allowed to dig a hole. Even if you need to put it in a plant, or if you have a whatever type of thing, you got to keep it up over ground. You can't use the subway because that's too deep. That's underground. Because you're someone who likes to focus on the surface of things. You can't go downstairs anymore. You can't use your basement anymore. That's the rule. Can't use your basement. Because you're someone who chooses to focus on the top level of things where everything's pleasant and cool and comfortable. Then you go in the basement, there's spiders down there. They're creepy. You know. Too much congratulations is offered to people who are not strong in places where it counts. Like, a lot of people are given props and lionized and looked up to for being strong. And these are obvious archetypes. People who are boxers and military people. Well, being a cop doesn't count unless you're in shape. If you're just a fat guy with a gun, that doesn't make you strong. That makes you insecure. That makes you scared. A little scaredy boy who hides behind a weapon. And you have to rely, people are relying on cops to solve their problems and saying, get out of other people's business. Fight your own fights. Or, stop fighting other people's fight. But then they let the cops fight their fights for them. And they're fights that don't need to be fought. Hey, I'm scared of my neighbor. Call the cops, man. Put on my sunglasses. Put on my blue blocker sunglasses. They're having a good picnic out there. I'm going to call the cops on them. Guess what? I'm going to call the cops on everybody enjoying the 4th of July tomorrow. Because that's the exact same thing flipped on its head. What would you get if I sang you a song? That's what I just happened to be playing the intro of. And why don't I just play that song? So I ate an edible earlier, and I'm drinking a ginger beer by the fine folks at Bantam. It's smooth and spicy. And you know it is because it says it on the can. Because I need to take a break off the wine. The wine is too much. I'm not even enjoying it anymore. It's like, I'm going to pour a glass of wine. Oh, great, I have heartburn. I'm so glad that I poured a glass of wine. It's so refreshing to have this heartburn. Stomach acid and shit. But, sometimes that's the life you gotta live if you want to live a life. And I heard that from a baby once. Alright. This is not what I'm looking... Okay, what is this? What? Oh. So I guess at the beginning of the song, it just says... Who the fuck is Billy Shears? I'll just be putting names in there that aren't names unless I'm missing something from history. But then again, who's paying attention to history? Otherwise, if they were, be speaking up about what's going on right now. Anyway, if Billy Shears is not a predominant civil rights activist, I don't give a fuck about him. Was he just some friend of the band? And they're just like, let's say his name because he produced an album, and it's just like, that is not important to think about, and I'm realizing that in real time. Okay. this be suitable to change up the octave here? Into singing that. So whatever, man. I played it on the fly. So observe it as what it is. I mean, I could play something that I have played before, and that's not completely fresh, and it's not completely from scratch, and it's not like a it's more under the belt, I guess you could say. Hi, I sound like Bill Clinton. I'm Bill Clinton. I'm Bill Clinton. You know, all Bill Clinton was a guy who's just like on, like, you know, anxiety pills. The way he talks like it, like, hey man, I'm just a little high right now. I'm Bill Clinton. I'm Bill Clinton, man. Hey, life is just nothing but a breeze. Nothing but a breeze in the sunshine. I grew up a wealthy boy and was destined to have the wealth and the fraternal influence to find my way into politics and go on to traffic children on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Okay. You can't really look up to any establishment Democrat and not also be aware that they were responsible for a lot of casualties, both, casualties like they died, or sex casualties. Like, in their circle of influence, where all their vices are brought to them, and all their lobbyists are trying to suck their dick to get a little vote in their favor, and they have all the world's money to do it. It happens, and it did happen. I can't get over the fact that Hillary, in that whole stance of stop and frisk, and her going up as part of her campaign, her New York Senate bid, was to condemn children and call them super predators, and then try to look like the good person, and people look up to her still and say, man, if we had her, we wouldn't have had this. It's like, yeah, but people wouldn't have been as talking about the Black Lives Matter issues as much, because we'd have been pacified just enough with her bare bones anti-genocide. Like, her bare bones, we're not putting children in cages actively. We're not dog whistling white supremacy, but we are looking like we are scolding people who don't look like us, but we're not dog whistling. It's two different things. We're looking our dog in the eye and making a look at it so it stops doing what it's doing, but we're not blowing a whistle. It's a different type of thing, but it's similar to the same thing. This has been a week of... How's your week been, sir? How's your week been, ma'am? How's your week been, gender non-binary individual? How's it been? I know it's been a little more tough than the other two groups. I can tell you that for sure. But I hope you aren't just constantly filled with rage. I mean, there's got to be an outlet for it. Hopefully that outlet can be as healthy as humanly possible. And hopefully it's not self-destructive. That is the fight. The real American fight is not succumbing to the ease of apathy. Because if you have privilege, you can turn your back and you can look the other way and not get punished for it. And actually, you'll be rewarded for it everywhere. Which is crazy that, evil is so tempting. But the people who are the tempters are the same people talking about how good Christians they are. It's like, man, don't you know you are the devil drawing people into a world that persecutes people of different backgrounds? The idea that it's let's ease ourselves to sleep at night, but then not paying attention to the hypocrisy of the narrative. Just the hypocrisy of Trump holding a Bible in front of a church on the day that people cried out for the police slaughtering of innocent black people in their own homes, in their own walks of life. The routinization of that. He goes to a church and holds a Bible. He is the Antichrist that the Bible is alluding to the whole time. It's this person. He's a money lender. He's someone he's the embodiment of all these 7 deadly sins that are talked about in there. Gluttony, check. Greed, check. Avarice, check. Lust, check. Wrath, check. Every single one of them, he is the living embodiment of. So just the Macbethian Pharaoh's foul image of him holding a Bible, like a limp dildo, in front of a church, while people are calling for police reform and protesting the street and having their heads bashed in by his stormtroopers, by Darth Vader's stormtroopers, by Hitler's stormtroopers. How do people not see through that if they don't agree with it? You can't have it both ways. Either you agree with him 100%, you know what he's doing and you agree with it, or that's it. There's no other. You can't just ignore how obvious it is. It's too obvious. Things he's saying are just not tiptoed. They're not. I need a song. I need to sing myself better. I need to calm myself down. I need to calm my ass down with a song. Hopefully it calms your ass down too. This one requires percussion. Just going to be another Saturday night. That's all it is, just a Saturday night in the chaos of America, in the false prophet land of America. Let's see what we got here. Let's check in. Let's see what's going on with my buddy. But we'll be back with some more show. Stay put if you're still there. If you're not there, enjoy what you're doing. Hopefully it's a lot of fun. And we'll be right back.
We'll return after these messages.
I found a recipe you won't find in a cookbook, but it's sure nutritious and a real money saver, too. Take a quart of Carnation Instant Non-Fat Dry Milk. Add a quart of whole milk. Mix, chill, and serve. You get 2 quarts of fresh-tasting low-fat milk and make a real savings on your milk bill. Carnation Instant Milk. Good for you and your budget, too.
Know how I save money? With unsweetened Kool-Aid and sugar, just like my mom did. I remember how she'd mix a big pitcher full. Kool-Aid was so good and so inexpensive. It's still as delicious as ever. Today, with my sugar, it's about 12 cents a quart. Has vitamin C, too. I like giving Kathy what my mom gave me.
Kool-Aid brand soft drink mix and your sugar. You loved it as a kid. You trust it as a mother.
I can't believe this. You know, Gravy Train's really been improved. Look how the guys go for it. It's a big improvement because Gaines just added a natural beef flavor. Improved Gravy Train even looks different. And dogs can taste the difference, wet or dry. Tests show they prefer its new beefy taste over old Gravy Train 3-1. It's fully nutritious, too. New Gravy Train, a big improvement in taste. Right, guys?
When can I pick up the pictures?
Thursday.
Thursday, okay, let me make a note of that.
You gonna write it down there?
Well, it's going to,
Oh,
yeah.
well, then let's say Tuesday.
You mean 2 days earlier?
No, 5 days later.
5 days later, I thought as much.
If this customer were at a Photomat store, we'd be introducing him to our brand new picture pickup promise. Photomat's way of telling you exactly when your pictures will be ready.
That quick?
Sure, and if it doesn't work out, you get a free roll of film.
Oh, no. You get in trouble for
It's
that.
no problem.
Huh?
It's a Photomat policy.
The Photomat picture pickup promise.
Is there a Photomat store around here?
Hi, I'm Sandy Duncan, and like most everybody, I am a snack lover. In fact, right now, I love some Wheat Thins. Wheat Thins taste really good, and they're full of natural whole wheat. So they make a terrific snack right out of the box, or you could put something on top. Look, when you're having a snack, why not have something really good? Wheat Thins. They call them the light little cracker with the big wheat taste from Nabisco. Love them.
I hereby dub you the Easter Bunny.
Wednesday, a special family presentation narrated by Fred Astaire.
The Easter Bunny is coming to town today.
Let's all have a happy Easter.
The Easter Bunny's coming to town.
This is Robert Hedges. Stay tuned for the second half of the Brady Bunch Hour, or the sweat hogs are gonna get you, see?
The American Eagle. Goodyear's symbol for its all-American kind of radial tire. Goodyear is committed to product innovation. We introduced rayon cord in tires. We created the polyglass tire and the polysteel radial. And now the American Eagle with belts of Flex 10 cord instead of steel. Flex 10 is made from a flexible man-made aramid fiber that's pound for pound stronger than steel.
The tire for America. The American Eagle. The tire.
It's not too sweet. It's refreshing, crisp, and neat. Canada Dry Ginger Ale. It's not too sweet.
It's not too sweet. I repeat, it's not too sweet. Canada Dry cools your thirst. It's a taste that can't be beat.
It's not too sweet. It's a cold, refreshing treat. Canada Dry Ginger Ale. It's not too sweet.
Regular or diet, it's more refreshing because it's not too sweet.
You're the Pepsi generation. Come and have a Pepsi day. Come on, and taste the Pepsi way. Come on, and have a Pepsi day. Wrap a thirsty smile around it. Raise a Pepsi up and down it. Come on. Have a Pepsi day.
What's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. Did you try it? I'm not going to try it. You try it. I'm not going to try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
When you bring life home, don't tell the kids it's one of those nutritional cereals you've been trying to get them to eat. You're the only one who has to know.
Why are women so happy about new Tickle antiperspirant? Is it because Tickle is the first roll-on with a big, wide ball? Is it because Tickle has a new, quick-drying formula? Or is it because Tickle helps keep you dry all day? Make yourself happy. Staying drier is nicer with a little Tickle.
Use FinalNet for 5 good reasons. 1, FinalNet is not an aerosol.
It's concentrated with a hold that really lasts. 2, it holds without stickiness. 3, it goes where you want it. 4, FinalNet has no aerosol propellants. 5, this much FinalNet goes as far as this much aerosol. Use non-aerosol FinalNet. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
America's been waiting for a family show about a real family.
Maybe you're just old-fashioned. Yeah, maybe.
A show that reveals the joys and the sorrows.
You better all dig down and find your pennies because this family could be in deep financial trouble.
The triumphs and the defeats of real people.
Mary, would you lay off him? I was just trying to do his job.
The Bradfords are the family. 8 is Enough is the show. Right after Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley.
Don't come near me.
Thursday, John Amos, Ernest Borgnine, and the cop of the future are set up by a girl on the edge. Then a new puppy brings Chrissy and Jack closer together.
Yeah, there's nothing a girl likes more than a little tickle on the tummy.
Knock it off!
Three's Company after Future Cop and Barney Miller.
Federal Builders asks New York homeowners what's most important to you in choosing a home remodeling firm.
Recommendation.
Quality materials. Reliability. Good workmanship.
Good designers.
Financing that fits my budget.
Saving money.
Federal Builders has satisfied New York homeowners for over 24 years in every phase of home remodeling. Our designers create exotic wood or Formica custom-built kitchens, including the latest appliances, or will transform your old outdated bath into a beautiful modern bathroom. Finished basements, dormers, additions, alterations, everything priced to fit your budget. From quality economy jobs to the ultimate in luxury, every federal job carries a full 2-year guarantee. For a free estimate in your home, call 212-787-8600 or 516-333-4900. That's 787-8600 or 333-4900.
Who gives a fuck? Listen to this.
Man, you got me grooving. Just keep on moving. The feeling is really soothing. The more you keep me moving.
Oh, baby,
I got my mind made up. Come on, you can get it, girl. Anytime.
Say what?
Tonight is fine. I got my mind made up. Come on, you can get it, girl. Anytime. Tonight is fine. I got my mind made up. Come on, you can get it, girl. Anytime. Tonight is fine. I got my mind made up. Come on, you can get it, girl. Anytime. Tonight is fine.
That is instant funk with I got my mind made up. You can get it, girl. Say what? That's actually you say what is not part of the title, but it's fun. It's fun to be in part of that. That song is just a joy factory museum. Speaking of factories and or museums, I'm going to actually, I got in touch with my buddy, Rhodes Pierre. He's a comedian local to Boston. And we're going to have him on the show in just a little second here. But before we do that, I want to play some of his stand-up just to create some context for you, to just show you how much of a funny motherfucker this guy is. So here is Rhodes Pierre at the Laugh Factory, manufacturing laughter.
As Katia said, my name is Rhodes Pierre. I had to grow up with that name. It's tough, especially growing up in the hood. They just kind of pre-registered you for an ass kicking. People are like, Rosemary? They're like, yo man, just step up and take your ass kicking. It sucked, because I first moved here from Montreal to the States, and the first question I asked my parents is like, Mom, Dad, where are all the white people? They're like, in their Asian accent, they're like, well, in South Africa they call it apartheid, in America they call it the zip code.
Nice. Oh, they're falling out on that.
But it's cool. It's cool. First day of school, the teacher's like, oh my God, what a wonderful name, everyone, Rhodes Pierre. Kick his ass. Got no love on the basketball court. You know, it sucked, man, it sucked. How many people here went to Catholic school? Alright, y'all folks in therapy? Yeah. I got my sales training in Catholic school, remember that? Sell the candy, sell the raffle, sell the cake, sell. Or you go to hell. That was Sister Dorothy's motivational speech. It's crazy. And every Catholic school has like their thug nun, their ninja nun, and Sister Dorothy was ours. She weighed like 300 pounds, wore the hush puppies. Yeah, so she was silent and deadly. Like a fart. She had a secret weapon. 3 beat time? You silly devil, you must pay.
That's funny.
It's cool. So, needless to say, I left elementary school. I graduated. I graduated. And I went to college. That's where I got the knowledge. Yeah. It's kind of tough, you know what I'm saying? You guys have heard the term, the designated driver, right? Yeah, that's when the dudes is high on THC, PCP, LSD, everything but, alcohol. Yeah, it drives you home. He's a little fucked up. But he ain't drunk. He'll pass the sobriety test. Incoherently, but he'll pass it. Well, in college, I learned the term the designated decoy. That's right, that's when your white friends take you shopping as a black man. They allow the store clerks and security to follow you around. Can we help you, sir? Can we help you, sir? Can we help you, sir? While they raping pillars of store.
Yes, sir! Yes, sir!
That's
funny.
Yeah, I don't have a black friend. I'll get one.
I get some more light.
It works. Yeah, it's crazy. So, I don't know. All I gotta say is, right now with politics going on, it's kind of crazy that American Idol gets more votes than the presidential election. So I feel it should come back.
All right, I guess I'll just have to sit this way.
Exactly. Basically, what you do is have, a competition.
No, just a comedy.
At the end of the competition, the middle of the competition, you can actually have someone like Simon and his British accent going, pure rubbish. Absolutely horrible. Make them dance. Make them sing. Those are true criteria to actually see who should be president.
I'm going to set this up a little better.
I think, you know what I'm saying? Because the bullshit that they give us just doesn't work, you know what I'm saying? At least if they're singing, we're paying attention. Sing the policy. I love to raise your taxes and screw you in the end. No, seriously, folks.
That was serious.
No, I'm going to do one impersonation. This is the only impersonation that I do. And this is my impersonation of the government. Here we go. Here we go, folks. Yes, come on up. Thank you very much. You guys have been awesome all year. Bring you back to your house. Thank you guys. Welcome back. Give it up, Rhodes, everybody. Give it up for
Rhodes Pierre. Just caught your stand-up from the year 2009.
It's a while back, yeah.
It holds up. I mean, you're talking about the government, fucking us and all that. That's pretty relevant. It's a timeless sentiment right there.
It's funny how it's being some people have brought it up again, and the fact I remember that joke when you said it back then, the apartheid joke and stuff. So yeah.
That's I don't know. It's just getting crazier and crazier.
It's how they say the old adage. It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
People can relate to it, and it's the truth the way you see it. And then sometimes, as they say, you can. Sometimes the only thing you can do is laugh. When all the other emotions are you're shock, surprise, and just in disbelief, and then you're like, wow,
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I mean, there's one way to look at it. The only thing you can do is laugh is a way of saying flip it in a positive way because laughter is the medicine. But it's also all you can do is laugh. We're not allowed to do anything else. We can't stop the government from its bringing its stormtrooper squad and murdering political dissidents on site and all that stuff.
Well, the people, that's the thing that I feel the people we do with avid of technology and the fact humanity has hope, I see it as the fact that people are actually seeing it. And I feel 2020, how it's 2020 is supposed to be perfect vision. Yeah. And I feel that's why people are getting awoke in the sense of okay, they're starting to see what other people have been telling them has been their experience. Just because they haven't personally experienced it, it's hey, you know what I mean? You're willing to believe in Santa Claus and Jesus, can't you believe in other people's suffering?
Yeah.
actually witnessing it. Like, yo, I'm hungry. You know, you don't have to like see me like groveling on the ground and dying for you to believe that I'm hungry. You know, just kind of like, acknowledge it.
It's like they so quick to believe a wild fantasy, but so reluctant to believe something that's pretty simple to fathom. Like, even it could even paint it this way. Like, if someone's so, I don't know, like dumb, or they're burying their head in the sand, like you could say like, hey, haven't you ever seen a TV show where someone was hungry? Didn't you ever watch like a superhero movie where some guy was hungry? Now imagine that, and that's people who are in poverty and don't make as much money as you. Like, do you believe that? It's like there's almost like you do believe that people make less money than you do, right? Like, you have to explain it in these granular, like, what will you believe? Like, you know?
Well, it is a thing. It's like it's unfortunate that it's been turned into us versus them, the have-nots versus it's like the haves and stuff. And it's like, well, there are plenty of people that have that are willing to share. It's the have that are not willing to share, that are being greedy. They're the Native Americans said that greed is a form of violence. It's like overstating your existence on the planet. It's like you're here for a finite time and you have finite resources, use them. But again, we're stewards on the planet. We're not like, we're not supposed to, we don't own it,
Yeah, that's such like a ego, that's such a human concept, like ownership. Like the idea that we rent land from people, it's like, who are you to say you own Earth, this piece of Earth?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Native Americans, again, this is a great book I read in college. It was called Capitalism and Slavery.
Yeah.
In one of the court cases they took the Native Americans to, they charged them with trespassing. And the defense was like, well, Mr. European, Mr. White Man, you came here. The land was here, the tree was here, the river was here, and the mountain was here when you got here. And when you die, the land's going to be here, the river's going to be here, the mountain's going to be here, the tree's going to be here. So how is it yours?
Yeah.
And that's why they were like, okay, let's get rid of that logic. We don't want, we want to, the whole franchise is like, again, America being a country, the whole thing is set up upon the idea of like land ownership and being able to say this is yours and being able to charge people to be, on the land or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's such a construct, but it's also like a thing where it's like, okay, it all works perfectly if there's a bunch of people in the bottom doing all the hard work, and then as we get older and become less skillful and less competent, we get to graduate up and do these jobs that don't require any thought. Like, you can go into Congress, not do anything, just sit on your phone and play Tetris, during meetings deciding if people get health care or not. Or it's like, you don't have to have any skill to do that. You just have to get there and have the access to it. Meanwhile, it's like every step of the way where bricklayers lay the brick that they walk on, farmers pick the crops that they eat and enjoy, they drive a car that was manufactured in an assembly warehouse, they use a phone that was created by child slave labor, and then they go do a job where they do jack shit, and then they're like, you guys are lazy. All you guys are complaining about your wages. You're all lazy. Let me go sit in my hot tub for the rest of the week. Like,
no, you're pointing out the irony of it is the fact that they turn around and make these rules and laws to make themselves richer, to enrich them.
Yeah.
And they're not actually bettering our lives. They're actually just, again, lining their pockets. And then they turn around and say it's our fault that, we're not producing enough for them to line their pockets. Like,
yeah. Well, if people got educated enough, if the base level people got educated to say, oh, we're not going to make you any more shit, now get out of your house and go build a farm. Like, they have to make people go do the shit themselves. Then they'd be like, let's be more generous to our workforce, as opposed to the Charlie Bakers of the world trying to quickly open up the doors so these food service people can make their groceries for them and all that.
Well, that is kind of like, again, the entire idea of concept of like going to people on the bottom, people on the top. It comes down to, like, again, like you said, education. The way it actually have worked when it, for the working class, when it got better for them, was like areas like the Black Plague, just like right now, where the labor force was like decimated. And then so therefore the feudalism, the lords or whatever, the manors had to actually entice people to work for them at that point. So that's why you had like better working conditions. People actually had a choice. As of before, they were abusing, the peasants, and they were like, oh, whatever, you're peasants. But it wasn't until the Black Plague they realized, okay, now they have to actually fight for people to work. And now again, the labor force is up there, and they're just like mistreating the people. And as you said, if it wasn't for the actual people doing the work, the society would not function.
It would not. And it's just like, why don't people, I mean, I don't know. It's too much to wrap one head around, where it's like self-awareness is all it takes to have people say, no, well, let's agree to not let this happen. But then it's almost like they enter into a contract of work where it's like, well, if they do wrong, if they try to steal, if they try to act out, they'll get fired. A boss will reprimand them. Police will jail them. So it's like all these things are just dead ends to say, so take a little bit of money for hard type of living that you don't reap the grand amount of benefits from. It's like give all yourself upwards as opposed to pouring it into yourself and powering yourself forward.
And that's funny, as you mentioned the concept of working for for people. And under the Constitution, you weren't supposed to be charged or pay taxes on your wages.
Yeah.
The idea was like, if you worked, it was your personal body doing the work in exchange for the money. And the idea of having income tax, all these other Medicare tax, all these other things being charged. So Hamilton and Jefferson argued that if you had to pay the government to work, it was like paying to get a license to be able to be allowed to work. Yeah. And they were like, you could charge was corporate profits. Like if you were a corporation, you can charge that as income tax. But our wages weren't supposed to be taxed. But somehow or another, with the New Deal, they were able to say, okay, yeah, we'll start charging for labor to have a safety net.
So what you're saying in the New Deal is when that got snuck in there as saying, we're going to start taxing some workers now. And we're also creating the New Deal, I feel like, is most famous for creating all these social programs, which actually assisted people like the lower class. But then you're saying, but at the same time, they Mitch McConnelled it and snuck in like a little, but we're also going to tax every single working person and make some money back off of that stuff.
Because again, it was supposed to be the corporations, again, not your personal labor, because your labor is supposed to be between you and the company, and the corporation is supposed to pay for it. But again, they turned around and be like, oh, the corporation's going to pay for it? We'll just stick it to the employees to pay for it, So it's just, it's a vicious cycle of like, they do one thing to say that they're giving you your freedom and liberty, and then they turn around and put something into the devil's in the detail. They put something in the caveat or the law to kind of like circumvent the purpose or the intent of the law.
Yeah. It almost feels like people create all this suffering to make death a good thing. Like, it's almost like humans are like, they're like, if we make this world so insufferable, all of a sudden people will look forward to death. Let's just go kill ourselves. That's how they justify, that's the way that they create a good perspective on death. It's like, let's make them all suffer to where they just get these slow returns on investment, like these small little incremental returns on their effort, to where it's like, what's it all worth? I'm not getting anything, so stop working so hard to get nothing. Whereas, like, why don't I just die and get nothing and not have anything? And, like, I mean, that's a bleak way to sum it all.
And, like, the thing is, it's like right now, like, the millennials, you can't them to, like, it's kind of funny how you're, like, trying to get them to have kids, and then because of the way the society is and the world is,
can't afford to have kids.
Yeah. Well, you can't afford to have kids, and you're afraid of the world that they'll inherit, You don't know what kind of world that they'll end up with.
Well, it's like this weird thing where I'm just looking, I don't have kids, but it's like, I notice like all my neighbors here in Somerville pretty much are small, like younger families or whatever. Mm-hmm. People that I feel like look like me or have the same kind of disposition where if I settled down at some point, I might be that kind of person. But it's like, there's people with children, they're like, they have Black Lives Matter things in their yard. You see the kids with the masks on. So already it's like, I'm seeing this thing where it's like these children are growing up into this crazy world, what's like without much of a primer almost. like, yeah, the president's Hitler. There's a pandemic happening right now. Police are murderers. So that's just the world. And they're going to grow up and be like, yeah, that's just the world. That's how I know it. Or they're just going to be spoon-fed this ignorance sandwich that it has been.
It's been perpetuated. I mean, the American dream has been like that's the, how would you say, that has been the malarkey or the manure that's been fed to people. It's like going like, come here, you work hard, no matter who you are, you're gonna get ahead and stuff. And it's like they'll put a couple of people's success stories here and there in front of you, but again, it's not an equal playing field for everyone.
Oh no.
And the people that are in power, like the status quo, like it's going to do everything in power to maintain power. Like that's the whole thing. It's like absolute power corrupts, or absolute power absolutely corrupts. I know I'm misquoting it, but bottom line is like, yeah, again, like you've like grown up in a regular household and stuff. Is your dad had to, like a friend of mine that uses this analogy, Nate, the stand-up comedian. He's like, as a kid growing up in the house, did your dad ever give up the remote control to the kids and say, now you guys control the TV and what we watch?
Yeah.
He's like, no, exactly. So he's like, what makes you think the people in power are ever going to give up the ability for they're not. And so they're going to do everything to maintain the power. And so it's like when people say, oh, they don't believe in conspiracy or what have you, like, go like, well, you believe in Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
You think someone didn't go around making up that story? It's kind of okay then. And so,
well, what's absurd is like how could it be that Mitch McConnell could be that valuable, that he could be so unreplaceable for however many terms he's been a senator? He's so irreplaceable that he just needs to have that job, and we couldn't have a Kentucky senator and a Senate Majority Leader without a man of his.
Well, I'm glad that the lady that's running against him. I wish I could remember. See, that's the whole thing. Name recognition.
Yeah.
What you know the name? You know the name of the lady that's running against Mitch McConnell?
I do, but I wasn't happy about it because I was all for Charles Booker.
Okay.
You didn't follow that thread at all? You're just kind of like, oh, he was not even a candidate?
No. Well, the thing is, it's like, no, she was a vet. And,
Amy McGrath, right?
Yeah. And she wrote a letter to him as a kid trying to get in the Air Force, and he never wrote her back. And I think that's so apropos that she's now a vet, served the country. What have you ever done for the country, Mitch McConnell? Yeah. This lady served the country, and you didn't even get her into the Air Force. You didn't respond to her. She got to the Air Force, served our country, and now she's coming after your job. And I feel that that's what that's what the American dream is supposed to be about. That's what American hope is supposed to be about. Actually, that's someone that's actually went and fought on her own and like stood up based upon what was available for her, to do.
Well, it's almost like the idea of like they paint one. There's two ways to look at rugged individualism, and there's the rugged individualism of, well, it's the false narrative of like, yeah, you get what you deserve. You go to Yale and you have your parents pay for that, and then you go off to be a businessman. You become a leader, a vice president. And like that's the pull yourself by your bootstraps. But then you have someone who's like, no, the actual rugged individual faced certain poverty and fought against the odds and climbed their way up and kept their temper down and found their way into it, and then finally broke the system from within.
Like, no, I mean, look at the prime example. Like the last president we had, like Harvard graduate, law school, all these things that he did to accomplish to become president. And the current person that we have as a president was just born into wealth, had no accomplishments on his own, just kind of like was a spoiled brat. But this is what America said was the best to represent us. And
America is a spoiled brat. That's all America. I mean, that's like the general swath of McDonald's, Disneyland, America.
Yeah,
is just give me more. I want some more ice cream. What's next on TV? It's just give me pleasure, instant gratification, as opposed to let's take some time to think this out. Let's maybe draft a system where healthcare and education are built in, and then we can look at Norway and all these other countries that are thriving and have for longer than we have. It's like it's like a newborn baby that's like, I know everything. Like a kid that says like they're cocky and they act like they know everything, but they're like, you're 12. What do you know? Why do you act like you know everything?
Yeah. Because as a country, we're like what 4 we're like basically like 300 or 400 years old tops.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 250, 1776. Or no, 1976 we celebrated our 200th because it was 1776. So 200th and like okay, so maybe we're like but anyway, they're like the China is like over 2,000 years old compared to us.
Yeah.
You know, other civilizations have been around way longer than we have. I mean, granted, like we were the top dogs for a while, but again, we have not been as long as all these other societies that are around us that still are around.
But it's like a cocky thing. Well, I see it this way. Well, so here's something I heard the other day is from like an animal, like a zoologist that studies species and was relating it to humans. Like there's a type of monkey that all the alphas were so alpha that they died somehow. Like there was some kind of a thing where they all were like, I'm going to steal food, I'm going to push you out of the way, and then they ate some poison, they all died off. And now their civilization is all beta male monkeys and females living in harmony, and there's never been an alpha since. Like there's almost like this secret, beta is natural, alpha is a defect, though it's the loudest, it's the killiest, it's the push out of the wayest. And that's almost like such the American model of like, you're going to burn out and you're going to be replaced by all these countries that have been peaceful, and they, it's like we talk about American founding fathers and idealism, but it's like, that old Teddy Roosevelt quote that's like, walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah.
That's the way most countries operate. And like, he was like a worldly man, but then we became this like insular country that's like, no, show them the stick and wave it around, as opposed to being like, I'm just going to observe, and when I need to, I'll defend myself, as opposed to attack and not use any brain cells. To where I think like people talking about the country as like a this is the greatest country that ever was, or like there's never been a whatever, but it's like other countries have been around longer than us. They like or what is it? There's freedom isn't free. It's like people died to give us freedom. It's like people didn't have to go to war. People didn't have to die to give us freedom. Like Canada, they're not having wars all the time, and they're doing just fine. They're doing better than us. Like Sweden is not a warring. They're like historically like a neutrality, not getting involved with warfare at all country, and they have like the best what is it, like lifespans and life expectancies and their health and their education, their social welfare programs. They're the model. We're not the model. We're the dumb guy.
No, I mean, again, it's like they kind of put it into perspective of like understanding that healthcare, education, those are basic necessities of things that government should get involved with and making sure that they provide for their people. Yeah. Unfortunately, we as America were like, oh no, like we can't get healthcare and education to understand that that's going to better the society no matter what. Like, again, do you want a bunch of like ignorant people running around, shooting each other, killing each other, and then saying, hey, and screaming that this is the best place on earth because they've been brainwashed to believe so. They've never left the country. Most of them don't have a passport to actually see how other people live in the world and to actually be able to compare and be like, okay, maybe we don't have everything figured out. So it is unfortunate that, again, because where so many of us are isolated, and our news sources, unfortunately, are corporate-backed news sources. So most people only get their news from the media giants that want to like sell them the imagery of the narrative that they want to sell them. Like most people like don't know what's going on outside of this country. Like they'll look what's going on in England because of what like the relationship that we have with the media with England. But like, ask them what's really going on in the Middle East or Africa or China, Asia, or South America, even in Mexico. They won't tell. So it's like, I mean, I encourage people to watch news media from Canada, Britain, Al Jazeera. Like, just get their news sources from anywhere else, like just so they can have a different perspective on what other people see.
Well, we act like China and Russia are the only places that have like state-run censorship, like censored news. But it's like, that's what we have, but it's corporations, it's not the government.
Exactly.
Journalism should not be for profit. Like,
yes.
It's like saying the thing that's supposed to give you good stuff is for profit. Like, healthcare should not be for profit. Journalism should not be for profit. But churches aren't for profit, and they're delivering a peace and a well-being mission. It's like, if you're a news source, you're doing you're delivering a service that's like not, it's a valuable.
Yeah, it should be exactly part of the public service. It shouldn't be something
that's
library motivated. Exactly, it shouldn't be profit motivated. And same thing with like the prison to the privatization of prisons. Police forces, like the fact that wait a second, you have a private prison and part of the contract is you have to have 80% occupancy.
Quota?
What? Yeah, that means like wait a second. No, yeah. They have a contract with the county. If it's a private prison system, they have to make sure that the prison is 80% full. They're like, yo, you got to arrest people, and that's the whole thing. They got to make quotas to make sure that the prison is making money.
So basically, the police force is bailing out the prison industry by filling those things, whereas they're not bailing actual people out. Like, out of prison, like bailing them out of prison.
Yeah. They'll bail out corporations, but they won't bail out people. Exactly.
But they'll do their, let's go on TV and talk about how we're there for you. And
exactly. They're there for the corporations. They're not there for the people.
Yeah.
Because they won't give the people the health care or the education that the people are asking for. And like 76% of the people voted in this country want term limits. They want health care. But again, the people, the Congress, and the people, the elite, kind of like make sure that they're not representing the people anymore. They're representing the corporations.
Yeah. But then no one's willing to, like, I don't know, people are so placated that they're not willing to stand up for what they should have. It's like, 100% of people think that having children in cages is wrong, but it's still happening. Why aren't people, like, with pitchforks and torches and stuff going down there and saying, get them out of there? Like, people aren't rising up and saying, get them out of there. They're just like watching from a distance saying, hey, I think that's pretty bad over there. You should not, I don't like that. Like, as opposed to jumping in there and saying, we're breaking you out. Like, we're breaking the system down. We're punching security guards to get these people out of there. Like, why aren't people like more urgent about, like, these are crimes against humanity and people are just so jaded to it. Like, it's normalized.
Exactly. And that's the thing with media is like, that's what it does. It normalizes behavior. So if you see it, it's happening on TV. It must just be something that's happening. And that's what media does. It kind of normalizes things. So you don't even like, it just pacifies you. It's a great, that's what they call the mass media is the opiate of the masses. It just kind of like they keeps them brainwashed. They take the information, but they don't really react and like really dissect the information to actually see what it means. They just kind of like absorb it. Okay, I accept what it says, and they don't get to argue or question with it. It's not a back and forth relationship with the media. It's kind of like they shoot. Again, that's why I call TV programs. So they're programming your brain into like seeing things and just accepting them and stuff.
Well, it's like, here's what's crazy. It's like that idea is, like, people will binge, like, crime TV shows. They'll binge murder investigation shows. Like, you're just binging it. Like, can't get enough of this human being that died wrongfully. This is so good candy. Like,
It's one of my guilty pleasures, all right?
So you're part of the problem.
One of the things I will tell you, it's like you don't know what the minutest clue might be that leads to what happened or how that person gets caught or what have you.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is to me is like how many times the police are incompetent. If you watch those shows, it's someone that says, no, you're wrong. It's a family member, an insurance company, or something that's saying, you're absolutely wrong. This is not how it happened. It takes 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Like, even if they have the DNA evidence and they go to court, they're like, nope, you can't get a new trial. They're like, what the?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like, that's so mind-boggling. Like, the people like rather, instead of setting an innocent person free, they'd rather stick to their guns and be like, we did it right. Like, and then you have all the evidence. And in 10, 20 years on, well, we did it according to what we were supposed to do at the time. Like, if you just listened and actually represented the people, and then, you wouldn't have an innocent person that's being proved by science. Again, technology, not someone's hunches, not a detective's like, I can feel it's him, I know it's him. Like, the human lie detectors,
I want more of these, like, autism spectrum private eyes, like, going around, like, I can feel something is off. Like, I want more of these, like, Sherlock Holmes. Like, you ever watch the show Monk?
Yeah. Or watch Psych. It was another detective show like that.
Where it's like he has OCD, and his OCD is like obsessed with details, and that makes him a good detective. Like, get some more of those guys that are like, they're neurotic. They go home and they put their cups in a row. Like,
yeah.
They would
like,
make great cops.
Great detectives.
Get 17 of those guys together and solve all the crime.
The crimes will be already solved by the time they get there. They'll be like, "Oh, okay, we already figured it out."
No, they're like so humored by it. They're like, "I'll wait for you to get it. Did you get it? Did you get it?"
yeah.
I'll give you one more chance. Okay, let's keep going. I got it for you. There's the answer. Like,
so no, I mean, like again, it's a whole genre. Like crime TV. You notice how you said that people binge watch it, but like even our drama TV, like, is based upon that binge watching and stuff. So
I'm too aware of the world to enjoy that stuff anymore. Like even like Law and Order shows. Like I can't watch a show that celebrates or makes a protagonist out of a cop anymore. Like they can't be the protagonist. They can't be the hero of a story in every single. Like all these NCISs, all these. The Navy has a police department. Let's make a TV show about whatever obscure police department they have.
Like Jag. Well, no, they stopped. Like they actually stopped the show Cops. So those live shows, like since the Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd thing happened,
they
a lot of things. Well, they actually stopped broadcasting Cops now.
Oh,
the TV show.
Were they still on the air, or was it all reruns?
No, they were still on the air with like it wasn't on Fox anymore. It was on some other network, but they were still doing it. And they had the sheriffs, they had the Wahlbergs, they had the Boston Police one, like all these like Steven Seagal had his own TV cop show. Like so, they were different like neighborhood like they even had
like spinoffs or something.
They had another spinoff, but they also had one with like night beat or live beat. So you'd go throughout the country in different police departments and watching them do their job and stuff. So I mean, again, it's just kind of like normalizing and showing them doing their job. And again, it's always brought in from their perspective as a producer. And my thing is with cameras, I really wish like people would hold off and let the cops write their police report, let them actually seal it and boom, get it stamped, time, date, and stamped that this is your report, and then pull out the video camera. I hate when people actually pull out the tape the next day and the cops like, I want to see the report. Like, I want to see what they wrote on the report and be like, just get them for lying. Be like, here you have it on video. Yeah. Just hold off. Just hold off. Do not give the tape until like, okay, boom. Once they write their police report, then be like, I'd like to submit this as evidence and see what the police report says and what the video says and just get them for blatant lying.
That's a way to look at the show Cops as if it were like a community service, as opposed to like perpetuating the whole narrative of black neighborhoods are criminal and these cops are heroes. And did you watch the new Eric Andre special on Netflix?
No, I have not. I mean, I started watching it, but I've not finished it.
It's a lot, but also it's got a great ending. But
I saw the beginning where it was like he was in a cop car rocking around doing bongs. Like, all right, I was like, you're getting away with this.
Yeah, he could get away with that because he has the infamy or whatever, the access to whatever. But he has just one bit in it that's like, it speaks to all this shit. Like, there's a lot of stuff where he's just talking about doing drugs and shit, but it's like he's talking about the show Cops. He has a really great bit where he's like, I don't want to like steal his bit, but it's like cops will pull you. They'll like, he's like has people like, I'm gonna pull this guy over, and then all of a sudden they set it to the most peaceful, happy-go-lucky reggae music, which is such like a blatant.
Oh yes, I did see that.
Face.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that bit and stuff like that. No, well,
like reggae music, which is the uprising folk music, you know.
Yeah.
Which is such
it is kind of funny. That's the music that they chose to highlight that show Cops. Yeah.
Because I was listening to that just casually the other day. I'm like, they ruined the song though, because it's been spun into the calling card for this show, which celebrates police But it's like but also it's kind of a good jam though. You know, it's a good melody. It's a good. I like reggae.
Who actually sings it? Is it Third World, the name of the band that actually sings the song?
I don't.
I'll Google it, but I think it's Third World. But they're really high protest reggae band if it is them.
Well, I was listening, like, you know how, like, there's a lot of reggae music which just speaks straight to the heart and to the, of, like, you know, black suffering. Like, there's the song that's, Is It Because I'm Black? You ever heard that song?
No.
I think it's Ken Booth. But it's...
The song that I like is, like, Lucky Dubé. The song is called, I don't know what it's called, but they goes, the quote of the song is, they don't build no schools anymore. All they build are the prisons.
Yeah.
They don't build no schools anymore. All they build are the prisons. And
every song is such like a, I don't know, it's such a commentary on just like the human condition.
Yes.
But it's like set to the most upbeat, life-affirming, buoyant melody. Like the rhythm section is just like, you can't, I mean, it's designed to smoke weed and just relax. But then it's just straight up, you know, it's the idea like it's a message in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah. It's Inner Circle that sings it.
Yeah.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? And the guy was a fan of Inner Circle, the producer.
Really?
So that's why he picked that song.
How is that irony lost on you? We hear like, you're the bad boy. The cops are the bad boys. You know?
Oh, that's funny.
But it's almost like the song is so generically like it's more generic than a lot of reggae songs, which I think is how it got more mainstream, maybe. But it's like it just says like they catch you when you're eating breakfast and they catch you when you're eating dinner. Like it doesn't really pick a side on. I don't know. It's just kind of there for the taking. But
that it is. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get comfortable and keep my head up.
You're just snoozing. You're just taking it easy.
Here we go. No, it's like, it literally is like a laptop or a chest top computer. This is on my chest and stuff. But no, that is kind of crazy how they just, you know, again, that's the song, the irony of the song that they picked to represent the TV show.
Like it should be like a hillbilly song.
Bad boy, what you gonna do? Actually, speaking of hillbilly songs,
what is it?
You know, the one song that I really could relate to was like the theme of the Dukes of Hazzards, and I feel like all the black kids, like I feel like CBS did a terrible job of like brainwashing us into loving the General Lee because it was
the whole. But it's like also like a whole dog whistle of the Confederate Nation.
Yeah, exactly. So the crazy thing was,
them rebel boys are
fighting
for slavery to keep happening.
Well, here's the thing about that. Like that theme song, it's like, you know, it should be a theme song. I say for black boys too, because think about it. It goes just some good old boys, never meeting no harm. Been in trouble with the law, yes, since the day they were born. And I'm like, I feel we're some good old boys. We never meant no harm. Yeah, we've been in trouble since the day we were born.
So there's a unifying concept to that. Like, hey, everybody's from the South who's from the South.
Yeah. Well, but again, it's the idea of like, again, that everyone can relate to that, but they juxtaposition the fact that the Southern way of style of what they were protecting, you know, the slavery was like to them was, you know, and the irony about that is the fact that the majority of white people that joined in the Confederacy and stuff, it was like Marx said, if you have 10% of your population that's unemployed. Granted, the other people were enslaved, but if you have 10% of your population that's unemployed, you have a freestanding army. So all you have to do is clothe them, feed them, and give them orders, and they'll do what you want them to do. So the idea is like, again, is by the fact that like if you read some of the letters of the people of the Confederate Army, of the people that they sent home letters, and the letters were stating things of like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I got brand new clothes, new boots. I get 3 meals a day, and I'm sending you home some money. That's the best time of my life." Well, I'm gonna go fight for the landlord and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like it was. So they were fighting for a lifestyle that they themselves weren't actually privileged to.
So they talking about the good old boys were brainwashed?
Pretty much, because they were like, hey, it's like we weren't doing anything beforehand, so let's just kind of do it. Let's just kind of go keep this, quote unquote, this lifestyle that we want. They're just trying to force us, to do things their way. And again, people saw the inhumanity of like slavery in front of them, but because it wasn't happening to them, I guess they could kind of like separate and say, well, at least it's not me, it's not happening to me. And then but when it came time,
it's so grotesque where it's like down south, like it's like you're ignoring even bigger fires than people up north. You can get away with living in a bubble. I mean, not in the inner cities, but like in the the sense that, well, it's like you can't even say it. Well, I don't know, like California, like you hear about those recent lynchings and all that stuff where it's like, that's like that KKK culture that lives down south that like...
It lives up here too, my friend. I remember when I first moved here, like I lived in Boston, and it was like weird, like because I saw KKK spray painted, because I was during the busing era, because I was born here, but I moved back here back in like 78, and yeah, and then when I was going to school, like because of busing, they would like attack the buses, either throwing rocks or bricks, having signs and sticks as we're going through.
Yeah.
But they did spray, like it was funny because I didn't know what the KKK was, and then until it was much later, I was like going like, oh my god, they spray painted. It wasn't until later, years down the road, I remembered as a kid seeing that they had spray painted that in the neighborhood. I was like, oh, that's what the KKK meant. But I didn't really knew what it, like when I first saw it, I didn't realize what it meant.
Yeah. I feel like the time I really found out about that was like history class, where like, remember these goblins and spooky characters from Halloween's past? I mean, and then if you saw anything vandalized in like a high school, like I'd see maybe like, there's kids that are like, even in high school, some schools have shooters, some of them just like spray paint stuff or just blow bottle rockets or smoke in the bathroom. Like we had that level. People made bomb threats, but like, they didn't act on it or anything. But like if anybody like they did like a swastika, like it's like some kid who found out about it, I feel like, and then just he needs attention. He's maybe neglected or abused at home. But like there's not sincere white supremacy like flowing around. I mean, not that I know of, otherwise I missed out on that stuff.
No, I'm sure there is. Again, like it's not going to be overt here, in Massachusetts or in the Northeast. I'm pretty sure it's going to be more subtle. It's not going to be again, like in the South, at least they give you the courtesy of saying like, "Hey, we're just plain out racist." In the North here, they're like, "Well, we're not going to say that we're racist, but
we're gonna vote. We're gonna vote accordingly."
Exactly. Our actions are going to tell you that we're racist. That's all.
Yeah.
But no.
That's North Carolina. Like, here's the thing: like all the stuff that's happening in North Carolina. Like, I'm reading up on a lot of stuff, and my blood pressure's been through the roof these last couple of weeks. Just because I can't not consume everything. Like, every type of story, and reading all like Sean King's sharing these things, every type of thing. Like North Carolina had a couple things happen where I saw. I mean, are you on TikTok?
No, not really. Well, I know what it is, but no, I'm not on it.
The one, I mean, whether or not you go for it, it's like it is kind of a hub of like it shows all of the racism that's actually happening. Like it's actually like there's a lot of people on there, and it's like exposing a lot of the stuff that has been historically hidden. So like it shows like there's people like protesters with their film, the cameras, and those things get elevated by the popularity of it. Like there was like this lady who was like, yeah, I just got maced or something, whatever. Like I'm a medic. She has like a little taped medic thing, and she's like, yeah, I'm an actual healthcare professional, and we got together and we set up a little health tent, like a medic tent, with water and supplies and stuff to make it so the tear gas gets out of your eyes. And then they show the cops over there stepping on it, jumping on it, and they just went over and just started pushing people. And that was North Carolina, in the town that I'm pretty sure my dad lives. And, you know, I haven't talked to my dad since all this went down. Like, I had one argument, and then it's just like, away. You're not a person. You're not a human. and then the other thing is, Sean King shared this thing of 3 cops who were planning a genocide. Like, they had a radio, like, I can't wait to slaughter all these, you know, they said the thing that they say. And they got fired, and that's it. Like, oh, just kind of casually, North Carolina police, like a bunch of them were plotting to commit genocide. It's just like, you guys pack up your stuff. We don't take kindly to that. That's it, though. Like, you know, it's so on the cusp of genocide. Is so on the cusp of the police forces in the South. Like, it's the KKK is so tangible in those places.
Well,
like that.
That's the thing. It's like one of the things about the police force is like when a lot of them were set up, they were set up by like the former KKK or gang members or bullies. Yeah. You know, they weren't. You know, like So unfortunately, with a lot of police forces, even when they do their training or vetting, that they don't do psychological testing. They're like, it only takes 8 weeks or 2 months to 4 to 6 months to become a cop in this country. Like, to become a prison guard in Germany takes 2 years of college, and you can't, you know, you have to be all here mentally. Like here, it's like, you know, it takes more training to do nails and hair salon than it does. They'll give you a bullet. They'll give you a gun and bullets with less training than they give someone that gives a haircut.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of
preschool teacher. Like a preschool teacher can't be a preschool teacher if they're not safe around children.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Do they do psychological testing? Do they do the proper vetting as far as like putting people, like entrusting people with such power and authority out on our streets? And again, the whole idea of like citizens not being able to review them and the police union not allowing them to be fired if they're found to be egregious in regards to what they're doing and being able to fight for their jobs. Like, it's funny how like Chappelle pointed out the fact that, and then there's also, I don't know if you watched or listened to the Breakfast Club, which is that the radio show that's on. It's a podcast, but it's a nationally syndicated radio show. It's Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee, and I can't remember. But anyway, it's called the Breakfast Club. So they were featuring this lady, and again, it's a common theme, like where it's a black police officer and they see someone abusing their power, and they stop the person or try to stop the person, and they end up getting fired and losing their pension and stuff.
The black cop does for stepping in?
Yeah. So did you see Dave Chappelle's 846?
What is that? 846?
On YouTube, Dave 846 or 842. Dave Chappelle type in 842 and Dave Chappelle on YouTube.
All right.
And he did a thing about the George Floyd thing. And one of the things that he mentioned was about the two black police officers that went and attacked their former police departments, because the police departments, well, basically they did everything by the book and by the law, and they still ended up getting fired because they pointed out that someone was abusing their power. Very interesting. Like, anyone that points out that someone is abusing their power, they lose their job, and the person that's abusing the power gets promoted.
Well, there's also that thing where it's like the senators and the people that, I guess, draft laws and whatever, like fund them or whatever, they're powerless against the unions because they're such like a gangster squad. Like, I've heard that where it's like they can't...
I believe like they're again, it's something set up within the hierarchy of the government to like keep the senators like that, because I'm like going because you got
and shit.
Well, no, exactly. It's lobbying is legalized bribery. That's what I say. It's like, if you can't go in there and like the amount of money they can use to influence the senators' behavior. But going back to that whole union thug mentality, it's like, again, I think it's like one of the hierarchy that's set up. Because it's funny how, like, when labor unions are protesting or saying, hey, it's unfair, they bring in the police, which is another union, to shut down the labor union. I'm like, shouldn't the unions be united as unions? And
Yeah. Yeah. How are they? Yeah. How don't they get to collective bargain against?
Yeah,
people
exactly. They get to
being
collective bargain,
homicidal
but
maniacs.
yeah. So it's just something where I feel like it's the irony of like going like, wait a second, you're thinking of union. So it's like the idea of like divide and conquer, keep us fighting amongst ourselves, and they'll just stay and do what they need to do to gain power.
I was watching this. This is relevant. I was watching this like documentary or whatever on Jeffrey Dahmer, and like I don't like to spend a lot of time thinking about him or serial killers in general, but it was on. And I was just like how you're can be so repulsed that you're like, I can't watch this, but it's like each thing gets more and more horrible, and I can't not like see what is up with this.
Yes.
And it just gets worse and worse. So it's like it shows it. It's like, so first of all, whatever his childhood brought him to the type of social thing he had, and I'm sure he had some kind of a off. I mean, obviously he was a little off. Is an understatement, but like what he did was he lived in a black neighborhood and targeted kind of straggling young black people.
Yep.
And that were his victims, and then it was like almost like the perfect crime because cops didn't give a fuck, so he could get away with doing that and experimenting on ways to like drill a hole in their brain, tried to put different degrees of acid to make them brain dead, but like consensual or like submissive to sex stuff. So it's like he kept doing it, like, oh, I killed one, or that's too much. And he kept like having the patience to figure out a way to figure that out. But then finally he gets caught, after his neighbor was like, I think there's a guy being weird in there. And like, like that's really what it comes down to, is a nosy neighbor being like, I don't like I don't like the smell of what they're cooking in there. Too many onions. And then he gets caught. But it's like, but then again, whatever his sentence, I don't know what he went to jail for life or electric chair or something.
No, he went to jail. He was supposed to go for either the death penalty or life in jail, but other prison inmates ended up killing him.
But again, if he was a cop, he would have just been fired and would have gone back to whatever, Like, if that would be the worst case scenario, is get fired. Because, like, well, yeah, you have inherent immunity, or what is that thing cops have where they can't get in trouble for being murderers and serial killers like they are?
No, whatever it is bullshit. Whatever
like, put a cop hat on his head or badge on him, he could get away with it.
Yeah,
that's
my life was in danger. I felt threatened. And that's all they have to say.
He could use the gay scare, and Republican judges would be on his side. Well, it's like, well, he was scared, so like,
and I'm like going like, why are you a cop then if you're gonna be scared? Like, you should not be a cop if you're scared.
If you need a gun, I don't think you're fit enough for the position. That is a very physically demanding job.
Yes.
You're too old to be a cop. You should not. If you're too old, how are you going to catch a young person in a crime except by this old man putting all of his weight on a guy's neck? They have a gun. If you need a gun, like, you should be strong enough to grab someone. They don't need 5 guys for one 9-year-old boy.
You should also have enough brain power to be able to like try to like be able to control someone with your verbal commands, and like you already have the authority. You're the cop. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be the adult in the situation, not the one going like, all right, no, I got a gun. That's all. I got a gun. That's it. You better listen to me. My authority. You don't respect my authority. I told you.
I was like, are you seeing any of these video of these Karens walking around just being?
No, I have not. I've been trying to like avoid. Actually, I've been like working, trying to be busy. So
you're probably doing the best thing you could, because your brain, your mental health is benefiting from that decision.
Yeah. No, I mean, the idea, like I said, like I've seen different blends of racism and different levels of racism. So I've seen it in all sorts of like. I've seen the Canadian racism versus the American versus the Mexican.
What is the difference between all that?
In like the
type of hat.
It's definitely more blatant and systematic, and I would say could even be outright more mean.
in other countries or in Canada?
Yeah, I mean like the equivalent of the N-word in Canada. But I don't know. As a kid growing up, that was chocolate. All right.
Mm.
Like if you called me chocolate, those were supposed to be fighting words, and again, I didn't know those were supposed to be fighting words until my again, this is like second or third grade. And again, like my white counterparts back then. And again, this is second or third grade. They were like, we don't stand for that kind of ignorance around here. You need to leave. And it was like, and then even like, again, that was Canada. Like you come to America and it's like someone says some messed up racist stuff to you. People will be like, oh, I didn't see that. I don't know what, like, you know, and if some people do see it, they're like, I do have some friends that will be like, yo, that was messed up, and they'll do something about it. But it depends on who you're with, because some people will see it and some people won't, and they won't, you know.
Not sure they saw what they saw.
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
Exactly. They're like, I didn't really see it that way. I didn't think it was disrespectful when they took that table away from you while you were sitting eating your dinner. They go, there was just some funny stuff that's happened to me, and it's one time we were at a like super fancy restaurant, and they gave us our dinners. They said, everyone pick up your plates. So everyone picks up their plates, and the restaurant, they had the waiters take the tables from us while we were eating. We're like, this is not fucking, it was the funniest thing, dude. I'd like
they
to
just
call
took your tables away from you while you were sitting for your meal?
Yeah, they said, everyone pick up your plates. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And literally, we complied. We picked up our plates, and we picked up our plates. They took the table away. We're like, and they're like, you guys don't have a table no more. We're like, we ate. We just paid. Like, we're going to pay for the food or whatever. It was just weird. It was just,
that's some cartoon shit. That's like some Mickey Mouse, Daffy Duck type of shit. Like, did he also, like, take a saw underneath your table and cut, like, a circular outline and then your table dropped on the ground?
No, it was, yeah. I got to call my friend just to kind of go over the story again, just to be like, do you remember what happened? Like, what was that about? Because it was just, yeah, it was just funny. Like I said, like, America's just got its own brand of, like, you know, like, in your face, like, hey, it's the...
I want to know, because I don't hear this a lot. What, have you encountered shit in Boston? Like, have cops fucked with you?
No. I can't say in Boston they haven't. Like, but again, I haven't like the prime years of me being a punk or like being like a person that would get in trouble were spent in Providence. So
okay.
Again, as far as like being messed with cops, I didn't really get messed with.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see like a cop taking I'm like more of a gentleman approach, going like, excuse me, sir, can you stop? Like, kind of thing. I'm like, I'm not the one like, yo, like run you over with the car and then stick a gun in your face and go, I said stop. I'm like, you did not say stop. You ran me over with the car and then you pulled your gun out on me and then you said stop. All right, you did not say stop first. Okay, in your mind you said stop, but nobody heard you say stop. I didn't hear a siren. I didn't say excuse me. You know what I mean? Like, kind of.
You've had that happen, or you haven't had that happen?
No, I've had that happen to me.
You have?
Yeah.
Like a gun pulled out?
Gun pulled out, like riding
in your
my
car when you're just driving.
No, I was riding a bicycle. I was gonna be like my first or second day gonna go teach. I just got a job teaching high school debate and argumentation, current affairs. So I'm riding my bike to school on my way to work. And I'm riding towards, apparently, the crime scene where this break-in occurs. So I'm riding towards where there are 20 or 30 other cops up front. Like, so you don't have to run me over. Like, just watch me ride into the cops and be like, hey, we caught him. No. So I see like from down the hill, I see the cop car make a U-turn and start coming up the hill. And I'm like, I know I didn't do anything wrong. So I'm just riding my bike, you know. So now I hear the engine right behind me. So I'm like, okay, let me get on the sidewalk so I can get like the cop car, get around wherever it needs to go. Because I get on the sidewalk, they're like, oh, you were trying to get away. He runs me over like on the side with his car. And that's what broke his side mirror and my elbow broke the windshield. So they had to call a supervisor to report that. And that's one of the reasons they got more in trouble for damaging the car than they for hurting me. It's like so anyway, they pick me up. They after they run me over, like literally, I was ready to say like, you know, what the fuck's wrong with you two? But like literally, as soon as I turned around from the ground, I saw two guns, like literally the barrels of the guns, like right here in my face, and I was like, whatever it is, I didn't do it. and they're like
to the point where you need a gun in a car to take down a bicycle.
Yeah. So, and literally, like the whole justice system, unless you can find the right lawyer that's gonna like take on the entire system, it's all rigged because every lawyer I went to was like, well, you didn't take the hospital ride. That's all they were looking for was like if you took the hospital ride on the ambulance, they could settle. They were just looking for a settlement. They weren't looking for like, hey, moral justice or hey, you weren't trained properly. They weren't looking ready to do any of those things. They just were like, you didn't take the hospital ride. Oh man, that's what they were looking for. It was just like hey, you took the hospital. You got to pay this minimum amount. They were like, well, you didn't get damaged. You had no broken bones. Like you didn't. I was like, yeah, dude, but he ran me over with the car without like it's like they're like, well, you know.
But you're also like it's so like fucked up that you would be like, not even the trauma of a gun, 2 guns in my face. Like, wouldn't that be something you'd be like, hey, this person pulled a gun out on me. Deal with that. Like you're like, the guns or whatever, but the bike it's in shambles.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how your focus is so off. Just like if someone came up with a gun, I'd be like, that person is a criminal. Like why is 2 people pointing a gun at an innocent civilian? That's what like criminals do. They hold guns out in front of people and say, stop. Like do the thing I told you to do, which sometimes is take your money out, but sometimes it's just I'm bothering you, and I'm a man with a badge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a flip.
I will agree to that one, Ryan. I was saying.
I mean, I've always just want to I want to know what the Boston police are up to because I know what they're not doing as far as like protocol goes. Like I've looked into some of their they have a warning. They don't have to fire a warning shot, or they don't have to give you a warning before they pull a gun out. Like that's just allowed in the Boston. Like that whole 8 can't wait campaign, where it's like these are the things that would automatically bring casualties and brutality rates down 72%. If everybody did it, we'd automatically eliminate all this brutality. But like Boston is 40. It's 4 to 8 on those numbers. So like there's a lot of things that they're not doing. So I'm like, what am I not seeing?
The crazy thing is, you didn't realize that the Boston Police Department is actually considered like a top notch. Like a lot of other police departments come here for their training.
Like a liberal police department.
Yeah, it's considered one of the more because we haven't had a riot in this city. Like we've had compared to other cities, we've been fairly peaceful, and we've had like a better kind of relationship, quote unquote, with the community, with the cops. But it's like, no. It's just like, again, they're judging this on the fact that the city hasn't had a riot and hasn't had like any major traumatic like Rodney King or kind of like George Floyd kind of like event that it's occurred where it's like it was blatant. Because I mean, I've had people tell me stories about like how the police completely abuse their power, and I've like actually friends and work with them because of my job. Like I, help them ascertain, protection. Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is, I've heard stories from people saying that, and I tell them like, listen, come and talk to this, even talk to Attorney Rollins, and that's another thing too. And I feel like they're like trying to undermine her authority as the new Attorney General by like trying to like do things to make her look bad. Like they'll let the intent of the law is to make sure that if you did a petty crime, okay, you stole a bag of chips, you ain't gonna go and spend the night in jail, or they're not gonna like spend the time to go arrest you. But if you're a danger to society, you've raped or killed someone, or like you like carjacked someone, that's the one that they should make it. And it's the funny thing, like the people that steal the bag of chips, those are the ones that get thrown the book at them, and the people that like carjack you, they're back out on the street the next day. So
they are here to defend the rapists, and it's the fraternity rapists. Like, I'll tell you this from the inside, like working at a staffing company, so I've had to, I've entered somewhat of a corporate America after years of working, not having that. But then my first job was a staffing company, and the reason I left was because I found out somebody who I worked with was sexually assaulted on a sales trip by another coworker who still kept his job after that happened. And they went back, they had a sales trip, they bunked together. It was a male-on-male sexual assault. Like, they were roommates, and they were drinking because they're celebrating that they are on a sales trip because they got the highest numbers. They bunked together. This guy blew him while he was sleeping or whatever, and he's drunk and incapacitated. And he was just like, it's dysphoria to experience that. And then, like, he just, like, spent the whole week having to still face-to-face and be with this company, all that. So he left, like, immediately after that happened. The leadership team found out about all that. But basically, they went to court. The person who attacked him, their lawyer was like, well, where's your evidence? Well, did you have the saliva on the underwear? Where is it? It's like all that stuff. It's like, well, what's he doing carrying his underwear around, like trying to know how to be successful in it? Like the defense, it's like the pressure is placed on the victim all the time.
Yeah.
It's never the aggressor. Yeah. The aggressor is like, well, they have to really try hard to catch you, especially when it's the finance department of a staffing company that's a multi-million-dollar organization in the heart of the financial district. So, and then you go to a lawyer, and there's nothing they can do for you, and I need to pay rent in the meantime, so I take their lousy severance offering when I tried to, like, say, I'm going to sue you guys for wrongful termination, because I basically confronted my boss and said, how do you let this guy keep a job? How do you have this guy walking around drinking with all these coworkers where it's going to happen again? And then this other guy has to leave. So, like, I got let go after that. But meanwhile, like, I don't have money to hire all these attorneys, especially when you don't have a job anymore. But, like, there's another time where, like, you have to, if you felt like you were wrongfully let go, especially from some of these companies that are like, there's a system where they get away with a lot of shit if they're in a powerful position, and if they're making the company money, they can do whatever they want. Ultimately, is what it comes down to. Oh, you're making us money. Do what you want. Why would we care? It's like this.
The deal thing. Don't get caught. Like, if you're a politician, don't get caught with a dead hooker or a dead boy or whatever in a hotel room or something like that. Like, that's the only way you're gonna get, like, in trouble.
Yeah,
but
it's like the problem is not that you did it; it's that you got caught doing it. Like, that's the kind of thing that's taught to these, this breed of people.
No, but then, like, what if, like, that guy woken up and then the dude was giving him the blowjob, and then, like, the guy ended up stabbing him just out of a reaction, like, like, I didn't know who the hell it was, and it's like, oh, like, now you're gonna blame that guy, like,
Yeah, if he didn't know what was going on, he thought he was being attacked and his life was in jeopardy. But then here's the other thing, the other aspect of that. If he did do that, would the judge favor on him because he used the gay scare?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they're like, well, the rape is the one thing we were defending. Now we're defending the homophobia murder. Like, it's almost like it's the bad thing that they anytime it's the bad thing that they stand on the side of. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, if he's... Well, it's fucked up.
That's why you gotta see, like, when you do the corporate trips, you're like, nope, I insist on having my own room. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I insist. Let's just avoid all of this. Everyone have their own room, period.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't...
That whole sharing a room, it's like, wait, your corporation's your multi-million-dollar corporation, but you can't afford an extra hotel room? Get the fuck.
yeah, what are you doing? Trying to pinch pennies, but you're in Aruba? Like,
I'm sorry, like, no. It's like, no, I need my
part of me thinks there's a Jeffrey Epstein component to that, where they're like, we know this man is a closeted gay individual, and there are actually rumors around the office. Like, I heard people saying, like I was trying to bring, like, inclusivity into, like, I went from being temp to full time, and when I got full time, I was like, hey, maybe we could be more inclusive here. Maybe we could get involved with Pride. Maybe because, from my understanding, it's like, I knew there's one person here who, is LGBT, and there might be more. So if you create an inclusive culture, they'd feel more comfortable here to talk about themselves or be who they are at the workplace. So finally, like, after some amount of, like, my boss is like, well, I don't know if people feel comfortable with certain things. And then finally, like, I convinced people to be like, yeah, we should do Pride. And then they brought it up and they said, yeah, we'll do Pride this year. But at the same time, the finance department is like historically conservative, repressed. They're just chasing money, and they grew up in these Donald Trumpian households where it's like, just repress any of the things that the Bible says no to. Money is God. But at the same time, it's like, so this guy's making the money. I found out that maybe he's closeted, and there was one time where I found out like we were at a bar and like he got into a fight or something like that, and he got beat up or something, and then like there's kind of like he wasn't in work because he got beat up or something, and it's like, what does that mean? But then there's this thing where it's like, so if this guy just wasn't repressed, didn't have the childhood he had, the company was more inclusive, he could feel comfortable being a homosexual businessman. Like, you can be that. Like, it's this, I don't know, like this delusion of we have to be conservative if we want to make a lot of money. But at the same time, it's so repressed that it's aggressive and I don't know. This is just triggering some stuff in my past where it's like, so these attorneys, they don't actually stand up for the victims, and they're also like, and I've talked to like the Greater Boston Legal Services, and they're just like so overworked, and because it's a volunteer kind of like, we're doing it pro bono, so usually it's like they're like, you're probably not going to win, so you might as well just get over it. Like, that's kind of it's like the healthcare system model where it's like, you're not dying, don't clog up our hospitals so much. Like, like get the numbers low, but don't actually fix the problem. Just kind of do a little. You're not going to win, just get over it, and you're not dead. Like it's like the bare minimum scoop versus like it's the penny foolish dollar foolish penny wise kind of thing.
Yes,
like that's all this country is built on. It's just that whole model of penny wise, dollar foolish.
Unfortunately, yes. Again, and that's the thing. It's part of the educational system. We don't do financial literacy. We don't do home
media literacy.
That's
another
exactly. The idea of like knowing where your news source comes from and like how to judge whether the information is credible and stuff. So the critical thinking is not taught anymore. Like the educational system is about building factory workers, robots, people that just follow orders. Like raise your hand, do what you're told, go to the back, that kind of stuff. They don't want to teach people how to be like, hey, let me just figure this out on my own.
Or like, how can we groom our preschool kids to get into Harvard so they can go off to be one of these monsters that rule the world?
Essentially, I mean, like they don't like reward you like becoming independent. Like like they're like making it illegal to collect rainwaters in some municipalities. Like it's just kind of they want you on their system. They want you on their teat. They don't want you independent whatsoever.
For people that use like solar power, like they kind of come down on that. Don't they have like regulations on being allowed to use solar power?
Well, no, exactly. They don't want you outright buying the technology. Now they want you to license it so they don't own it outright. So it's just different things that they're doing. But bottom line is like it's we the people. I'm glad the kids are out there protesting and they're still not letting this George Floyd thing go, and they're still out there, saying that the world's not right and we need to fix it.
Yeah.
And I don't want the politicians or the powers that be, the corporations, to take over. But the good thing is, it's like since this incident has occurred with the coronavirus and the George Floyd thing, is the fact that it's brought a lot of the inequities to the forefront. And corporations have actually recognized or acknowledged that there's something wrong and there's something that should be done, and racism exists. It's like the fact that people have been like, oh no, there's race. I don't see colors. Racism doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's like now the corporations are saying it does exist and that they do see an issue with it. People like the climate deniers. You're like, I don't see any climate change. It's like, I don't have the proof. The scientists are wrong.
Yeah.
Like again, those same kind of people. It's like they're always going to have people that just don't want to, change, and they'll use any excuse, be ignorant in regards to what's going on or what's happening in their, consciously in their world. But I'm glad that the young people are actually seeing the truth or standing up for the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's the one silver lining, is just like, well, it's a good thing that there was a pandemic keeping people inside and focused on the reality and their human condition. When you take people away from all the distractions, TV shows aren't being produced anymore because all those actors are on quarantine. So it's like now it's like all that's being created is like news content or social media, where it's like that's where all this reality is being shared. So suddenly, there's no distraction being created right now. I'm going to see all the stuff that actually is as it is, and then you're like, well, fuck, all I can do is sit here and think about it, and then.
Well, no, they've been people like I've had a few friends go out to protest, yeah, I definitely had a few people like went to the Black Lives Matter movement. Like I'm giving it up to like friends. Like friends have asked me to go to protest with them, and like I don't know, just to kind of name a few. I got to give it up to a friend Erica, a friend Rachel. Who's another one that's Lauren Pespiza? She's another one that's out there protesting, organizing. It's like, I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement, again, give it up for another movement. It's just that it's taken a while, and then I still feel like this is just a continuation of the movement from the '60s.
Yeah.
In the '60s they tried to do it, but then after they killed, they killed Martin Luther King, JFK and RFK. I think people kind of said, okay, who's ever in control is kind of saying they're gonna shoot us if we keep talking.
Yeah. You ever notice that it's always the conservatives with the gun though? They're the ones killing all the people that are trying to do good.
Yes.
But then meanwhile, it's like, the cops are killing. It's like the same thing. It's like you don't see people like presidents aren't getting assassinated anymore, but citizens are all the time, every day. Like that's the reason. Like George Floyd, I think, is the closest thing to. I mean, all the people that have the names that have accrued. It's like, we don't have these grand figures being assassinated, but we have these everyday individuals being recognized now as citizens, as humans.
Yeah, as humans, it's exactly. So it's like the idea of like they were being killed like indiscriminately and without any accountability or any no one going to jail for murder. It's like that guy, like that dude literally was sitting on the dude's neck for 8 freaking minutes. Like you're telling me the dude's unconscious, he's still
with another asshole standing in front with his arms folded.
Bro, like that, yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like it's just
But I want to jump through that camera back in time. I want to punch the guy who's standing in the face, and then I just want to grab the guy. Like, why are people like so afraid to confront it? Like, if I saw someone choking a guy, kick the cop in the head, like kick him down.
Bro, I know, but again, as a white person, you
can't. You could not pull it off without having an even bigger army show up, right?
Exactly, because then as soon as you touch those cops, they'd be like, officer down, the army, the cops, the SWAT team,
the tanks and the helicopters and the F-16s show up.
Exactly. So the best thing they can do is shoot with a camera, record the video, and actually have proof that this is what's going on. So, because literally, if they had touched those cops, they would have been in the wrong right then and there. It didn't matter if and that's the thing. I commend them for not it's unfortunate, you know what I mean? And it's like, but I'm pretty sure.
To watch it for 8, they filmed it for 8 minutes, so I had to watch it for 8 minutes. Like, do something, save his life. Like, it's the same idea of like these children in cages. Jump in there, intervene, save that person's life. I don't care if it's against the law. Save his life.
So
like it's so.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's like if someone could, they would have. It's just that they know they would have lost their lives, and it would have been like that. No matter what happened after that, the George Floyd would have been lost in the entire conversation because they would have had a riot. It would have never been like, he killed them by being on his knee, by put his knee on his neck for so long and so long. So it's a tough thing because. If we try to intervene in every single thing that we see, it's like,
it would just be a lot more.
Cops would not be able to do their jobs. Literally, if every time I saw something like, wait a second, why you stop? Because I'm telling you, dude, I'm like because I literally was like, when the day that I got run over by the cop, I was going to go teach my like I told you, I was going to teach debate and argumentation. So I'm like literally pulled out the Constitution and had the kids read the Constitution and tell them their rights in this country and the Bill of Rights and broke it down to them. And then they, again, this was a white private high school, they broke down the fact that how they get harassed by cops. And I was like, oh, wow, like because of their age and the fact that teenagers, it's police brutality. It's about power and control.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like, let's attack it from that point of where they're abusing their authority, police brutality. But I mean, yes, Black lives do matter, and I'm standing up for that. But we should definitely be like focused on the way they train police officers, the way they put them out on the street and give them all that responsibility. They're not supposed to be social workers. They're not supposed to be But again, like we give them all this kind of responsibility and not any kind of training to actually deal with what they're going to be dealing out there in the real world. And unfortunately, like I say, we don't do a good enough job of vetting them to see if they're like, closet homophobe, racist. Like, no, we don't know if they're rapists, because it's like, it's funny how like you watch Forensic Files or all those cop shows a lot, like not a lot, but there's definitely plenty of shows where they tell you it was a police officer that was a criminal.
Yeah.
And they don't highlight that enough. Like, the top serial killer or the Green Valley was a cop. This top serial rapist was a cop. So it's just kind of like, okay, they say takes a
people sneak. It's like these golems find their way into the police force, and they're like, yes, we covet the power. We covet the fact that we can. They tell us when we go in there, you have immunity. So how can I use that? Oh yes, I'll put on the badge and I'll pretend to wear the thing and pretend like I'm a little soldier. But then they'll be like, yes, now I get to go commit my crimes. I have the power to do it without consequence. Like, that's like the feeling where it's, they get to be murderers. Like, they get to go, like, they don't test them for aggression or anger. It's like, you should be it's almost like you should have a little sensibility of a hippie to be like, I'm a peace and love community bringer together. Yeah, and I would hate to use this gun. I'll do anything to stop using this thing, but it's like, I just don't want to see people bothering each other. Hey, don't do that. But it's like, no, it's like these other...
I can't remember what show. It was on NPR. I was listening to it. But a psychologist came on and said, if a guy, just for the fact that they want to become a cop, says, hey, like, I want to become a cop, he says, just for the fact that they said they want to become a cop, they should be disqualified for becoming a cop.
Yeah.
He's like, no. He's like, there's no reason why anyone would want to really be a cop. It's not the pay. It's the fact that they can have the authority and they can be a bully. And I was like, oh. He's like, no, because most people, like, you ask them, what's your ideal job? People will be like, I want to be an artist. I want to be a CEO. I want to do, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no one's going to be like, granted, kids will do say, I want to be a cop or whatever, but he's like, as an adult, if you say that should disqualify you from becoming a police officer.
Yeah. You mean you should have to, I mean, there's criminal justice, like, degrees, it's like you should be schooled in the ins and outs and the higher level structure if you're going to actually approach it the right way. But it's like, no, we got this guy who came out of the military. He was like dishonorably discharged from the military, and let's let him be with a gun, because it's probably like he went to war. I mean, isn't that kind of a trope where it's like people who went to war, they killed a bunch of people overseas in Iraq, or they killed a bunch of people, and they're the people that like held their heads and took pictures like a giant prize fish, and then like they come and be a cop, and they're like, back to murdering again, because that's what's normal in my brain now. Like, it's all that PSTD channeled into another just outlet. Like, how do we create war from over there here so my brain is normal? And like, that's I feel like, otherwise, how are these people justifying kill as a society protection? That's not protecting society.
I don't know how they do it in their brains, but they do. They do.
People got weird brains. That's what it comes down to. People walking around with their melted brains, getting themselves into power.
They say that, absolute power absolutely corrupts. So
yeah,
it's the status quo has got to go. Hey, ho, ho. The status quo's got to go. That's my protest these days, Change things. Because they do say, it's like they say Black Lives Matter, then, It's like, oh, again, I'm not saying that like it is like one of the things that's like, as far as like getting that point across, is that yeah, all lives do matter. We're not saying that by saying Black lives that no other lives matter. We're just saying that there's been like a systematic effort to eliminate Black lives in this country. Not allow us to thrive or live, like from slavery all the way down to like the GI bills and the racist construct that the city set up, or the state set up, or the federal government set up, like as far as housing and wealth development, and the fact that they like we're saying like Black people were excluded from having the GI Bill of being able to move into certain neighborhoods and participate in certain government programs like their white counterparts. And that's, again, systematic way of how it's led to the wealth inequality, the health inequality, the educational inequality, because if it's like education is based on property tax, and if you have lower property, so it's just all by design how things have occurred in this country. And they people like I said, some people are starting to acknowledge it and actually see the country for what it is and this history. And I feel like, you know what, the fact that Putin definitely wanted what's our friend's name, Resident Agent Orange in the White House, that America got a taste of its own medicine, because America is always meddling in other people's elections, sending the CIA. You ever read the book or seen the book called the Diary of an Economic Hitman, or the Confessions of an Economic Hitman? It's basically the CIA guy telling you about how he goes to the country and destabilizes them and does things to kind of like, again, create like make the government unstable, so the U.S. can stick their own puppet government there for either the uranium, the oil, the banana, whatever the natural resource the corporation wants, they're going to get, because they destabilize the government of that country. Like, it'd be simple as something that's like starting a rumor in a local newspaper and stuff. It's just funny how, like, again, we're getting a taste of our own medicine. Like the Germany, Germany, Russia was like, all right, this is what you guys do. This is what we're gonna do to you. Here's Trump for you guys. See how you like them apples.
Well, it's classic. Like, oh, we departed, or we declared independence from a monarchy, from a totalitarian regime, only to become one.
Yes, Animal Farm, baby. Yes,
act like we're not. All we did is we're a child who learned from our parents.
Yes.
And
my gosh,
did it worse.
That is so crazy. Like, because you've seen the book or read the book by George Orwell's Animal Farm.
I'm aware of the thought behind or around it.
Right. So if you want the movie, if you go on YouTube, you can watch it for free. Animal Farm, the cartoon version, George Orwell's. Yeah. But again, it just kind of goes the whole idea of like the farm, the farmer. They kick out the farmer, the animals take over, and they're like, hey, and then they start acting like the farmer, and they start making rules. Now, all the animals were equal, but by the end of it, they're like, oh, well, the four-legged animals are better than two-legged animals. It was just.
Racism in animals, which also animals do not experience racism.
No, they don't.
Like they're more pure for their lack of hateful capacity.
Yeah, no, I mean look at all the different dog combinations you have.
Yeah, that's just interracial relationships.
All I will say is like, yeah, it's like if it wasn't meant to happen, the penis and the vagina would not produce a baby.
That's it. You can also look at another way. People who want to condemn homosexuality or whatever. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of gay animals though. If you study that, there's a lot of species and plenty of species who are genetically. So it's like the argument. I mean, I don't think people even make. It's hard pressed to find someone who makes an argument nowadays. But it's like, oh, it's against nature. But it's like, is nature. It's evidence of nature. There's examples all over nature of that. So you're dumb. You're not part of nature. Like, you're devolved from it.
And it's like the whole idea of like, again, it's like scientifically it's one thing, and then like biblically it's like going like, okay, they're like, no, it's like in the Bible, like it may be mentioned once, but what's the whole point of that whole Bible? Isn't it the whole point of the Bible is like love one another? That's the golden rule, like take care of each other. Isn't that the whole message? He didn't go love one another except.
Didn't Jesus challenge the system? Didn't he go up against the authoritarian oppressors?
He was a rebel. He was a revolutionary.
He was a working class hero. He was basically John Lennon, but he didn't beat his wife.
He didn't have a wife to beat, you know. Well, I feel like, you know how like they say like, you know, I feel like Jesus, you know, and he committed to saving mankind. He could have just been involved, you know.
Yeah.
Instead of busting out the red wine, he could have busted out with the white wine. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's just, here's something I was thinking of. There's like, the Last Supper was just a bunch of poor people going out to a dinner and saying, let's just get some free bread and water and book it. like he's just a bunch of lower class. They're like, yeah, I'll take this bread and I'll split it. So I'll take one fish and divide it so we all have fish. But the way the Bible interprets it's like he multiplied his fish. It's like, no, he just cut it and like, we're poor. We're just eating little bits and like, we're like, you know, and like going out to fancy restaurants and splitting a bill like too many ways to where it's like, we'll have one entree split between all 12 of us.
All right, like, come on, I need your nickel. Okay, someone's dipping us a nickel here. We're not getting it. We got to tip the guy too now. Come on, we got to tip him.
Come on, guys. What do you have? What do you have between you? You have some lint, some pocket lint? Like,
all right. Like, if we're going to go somewhere we can't afford to eat, like, why are we going to go somewhere where we have to tip the guy too?
Yeah. You got 6 myrrh on you? That's our currency. Hey, so I'm looking at my thing here. I have 4 minutes left of this podcast.
Okay.
So maybe we could do a to be continued or something.
Sure. I'm sorry, like I've been so relaxed. It's like all they see is the back of my head.
Nobody knows. This is an audio podcast, so nobody knows until you reveal it.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. So don't actually see the video. We're just kind of like, hey.
Yeah, we're just two dudes talking.
Nice.
As far as they know, you're in a tuxedo and you're standing in front of on a stage, and you have a, what are those things called?
Giving a dissertation.
Yeah, you have a PowerPoint behind you, and this is a real it's a super production right here.
This is awesome.
But also, I do have to close the show out in the next 3 minutes, so. Okay. Let's put a pin in this, and maybe the next couple of weeks or something. If you're around, we should shoot the shit again.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, let me know how the job search. Are you looking for a lawyer or a job?
Oh no, I have a job now. I'm doing fine. Like I'm in a good place. Like good. I've had a couple ups and downs, but like before the pandemic went down, I got a job at a local college, and it's like, you know, it's a righteous thing they're doing over there. So, nice. And I have like benefits that are actually helpful. So it's like the best case scenario that I got really lucky with there's 2 options. I went with my gut and took the one, and it ended up paying off. So I'm like, all right. So I've been in hell before the pandemic went down. So everybody who's like, this pandemic is making my life crazy. It's like, yeah, try being unemployed for like the better half of a year, where it's like you're trying to do stuff and you're collecting pennies on the dollar with the unemployment system over here.
No, it's designed that way. You know that, right?
So you can't make a living off of being unemployed. So you're just like, exactly. I'll die if I don't quickly jump to a fast food counter.
Exactly. That's literally it. Like, it's set up so that way, as soon as if you get unemployment, you can't live on it, and they're motivating you to get right back to work.
Which is like, I'm not. I hate. It's like, you think I want to be here eating whatever things, and then like being stuck indoors and not being able to afford anything.
But the crazy thing is, do you see how much work they do just to get you to the unemployment? Like how much information you have to get.
Paperwork, the weeks of approval, you know.
Yes.
So many hurdles, and it's so complicated. And if you're not like a legal jujitsu master, to like type in what is the technical thing in this weird archaic website, if you can't handle that, you're fucked.
And you got to go to fill out this form because you qualify for this program or what have you, or you didn't fill out the right form. Sorry, you got to go back and then get the right form to fill out. Like, so no, it is crazy. So
it's crazy. So Well, I literally the show is coming to a close. Let's keep in touch. Let's keep talking.
Absolutely, it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you for the time.
You too, man.
And stay safe, bro.
You too. Have a good tomorrow.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Yeah, you too, dude.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, man.
You too, man.
Bye.
Peace.